Hey everyone, and welcome to the TapsTrades channel, where I help keep you up to date on everything Ecomi, VeVe, and the NFT crypto space. Help me in welcoming back a familiar face, or I guess Lucha Cat Mask, VeVe Whale, all-in Omi investor and creator of the Feeshes NFT project, Brock McBlockchain. How's it going, Brock?
Oh, going great. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, man. Thanks for hopping on. I know that we've definitely had quite a few conversations over the past, I guess what, year and a half or so that I've been on YouTube. So
Yeah.
it's, and the reason why I think is just because you've been around in the project for longer than most everyone. And so I think it's really helpful to kind of retouch base, especially when things are down, to kind of, get your insight because you've been around so long. So that's kind of why I wanted to hop on and talk with the community and everyone here.
Cool. Yeah, no, my pleasure. Yeah, I've been with VeVe and Ecomi. It seems like 4 years ago. I think maybe I'm a little over or under. But yeah, no, I was there before it was even VeVe. So
Awesome, man. Crazy. And that's a lot of foresight. And so like, I think there's still opportunity for foresight, but before we get into the questions, and I've got a lot of questions and topics, and I want to make sure that I also get to a lot of the questions and topics from the community, but want to say hello to everyone. What's up? Apple Nerd, Johnny Dunn, Kobe Collects. We got some OGs in the house. Van D, what is going on? OBL, Fractal Edge, throwing up the Feeshes here. Luke, Marcus, Wubba Wubba, what's going on? Inferno, we got Der Vivi Meister. Yes, we got the German group in here. Omi the Clown. And thank you for that super chat. Adam, awesome face. So great to see you. Taps back again. Thank you for that. Very much appreciated. And we're going to be getting to some questions. We're going to be getting into it with Brock. But before we do that, one thing I did want to do, let me go ahead and share my screen, is if you don't already follow Brock, which I feel like most people do, you want to check him out. He's always posting really helpful stuff, insight. He's known about some of the artists and like knows the artists who've actually been coming to VeVe. So please check out his Twitter. And if you haven't seen it yet, he has a bunch of link trees to Comfy Dinos, one of his project. Obviously Feeshes, which we're going to have a whole bunch of the Feesh fam in here. I've been a Feesh member since the beginning.
you have the VeVe sign to prove it. So yeah,
I got the VeVe sign, which we've talked about. That might be the first VVIP outside of the app.
Is your golem moving? That's weird. Anyway,
this guy?
Yeah, never. I'm sure it's fine.
Is that good?
I don't know. That's weird. I've not seen that. That's weird.
I think that means it's worth at least 6 ETH.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Love it. Awesome. Well, so please, got rid of it. So please check out Brock's links. Check out his Feesh project. We're going to talk a little bit about Feesh, but really want to get into some of the VeVe and Omi questions and some of the topics I want to talk about. Again, the markets are down, but before we kind of get into any of it, I'm curious, just because we've talked a lot on and off screen. And so I'm curious, how long have you been in the crypto space? When did you first, invest in crypto?
Yeah, I've always been interested in the technology kind of behind it. But before even that, like before I was even exposed, I was working with another developer, and he just came in like almost like sweating one day, and he's like, "Did you guys buy any Bitcoin?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "It's the future of money." I go, "Well, if it's the future of money, I'll need some." And he was going on and on about how he was mining, and he had this condo, and he had set up like 20 mining rigs, and it's like increasing his electricity bill by this much, but because of the future of money, he's going to have all of these. And I was like, you need to slow down. I've got stuff to do. And I was like, how do I even buy this? And he walked me through like setting up like a wallet and everything. And that, you need to print this out. Paper wallet is like the most secure way. And I was like, this sounds like you're pulling my leg. But then he slowly like when he calmed down a little bit, he kind of like walked me through. I was like, okay, $30 a Bitcoin, I'm in. So I bought 5 Bitcoins for $30 each. And then it went to $100, and I was like, I've done it. This is the future of money. Sell. So I made, obviously 500 big ones. And very, very dumb. I'm originally from Florida, and if you go back to like the history of Bitcoin, it was actually like Jacksonville, Florida, that made that pizza for so many Bitcoin things. So like I feel closely related to that. Jacksonville, Florida. Woo. And then so like I've always kind of been around since the early days of Bitcoin, but I didn't really see. I was like, there was nothing that like kind of sparked my passions.
What year was that?
I
that
think
you were having those conversations?
I think it's like 2012. And so I kind of like put it on the back burner, like, sweet, $500. I'm the best ever. This is the greatest. Mind you, my friend has like thousands and thousands of Bitcoin. Like he's okay, I think.
Still today?
Yeah, I'm sure he offloaded some, but he's good. He's fine. So yeah, from all that though, I was like, this is cool. And at that point, it was like an investment opportunity. But I started peeling, like it kind of sat with me. I started peeling back the layers. And I think when Ethereum came out, and I was like, oh, smart contracts. That was like the eureka for me, where I was like, this makes a lot of sense. And so then I started diving into the technology and things like that. And then I made some investments again. I want to say it was like whenever like Ripple went to like $3, I bought it at like 17 cents, and it went to $3 in like 1 year. And I was like,
in 2017.
Yeah, I was like, this is stupid. I was like, this is dumb. Like what? Like I turned like $1,200 into like $80,000 from just like doing whatever. And I was in a little bit on Litecoin, but it was just, I was being dumb and just speculating and buying stuff. I didn't really like, it started to click at that point though, like when it went back. I was like, if it went up to 80,000 next year, it's going to be even better. And I didn't understand cycles or anything like that. And so, yeah, held there. That was fun. And so watched it go back down to like 30,000, and which was still more than what I had. So profit. And then right about then, I think, or just after, I took a job with GoChain because I really was just into the stuff, and they'd already done their raise and everything. I just came on as like an employee and was building like real world applications. And while I'm doing that and seeing like how blockchain is actually going to change things, some people jumped onto GoChain, and that was Ecomi. And as soon as I saw, prior to doing blockchain stuff, I was doing augmented and virtual reality for huge companies, and like how that was going to shake things up. And when I saw blockchain plus AR, VR plus like major IP, I was like, nope, all in, 100%, every single thing. And so I took all my tax money that I had held aside and everything and just put it all in. And it was like 4 zeros, and there might have been even a day where it was like lower than that, thanks to somebody that likes to dump things. But yeah, so we, just stacking up there, huge risk, not but from there, I was like a lot of people, I think, when finally the app came out and I was in early beta, I was like, I'm going to take just like a little bit of my Omi, because I know that's going to be the thing that's going to be worth a lot. And I'm going to take like $1,000. I'm going to put it into the app, and because collectibles, and then I tell you what, like, the $1,000 spent very, very fast. Even back then, I was like, holy crap! Like I'm almost broke again in gems. But I've got all these Batmans, and they were super low mints. I had no idea. Had I like hindsight or whatever, I'm like, oh, 1 through 100 of all of them, or it wasn't even 100. It was like 19 through 100. I would have scooped everything and been super great. But yeah, just again, I think it's being there, watching it evolve, and seeing how things shifted, even when it was a small group of like 10 people betaing, to then it was 1,000, and then it was and then they kind of refreshed everybody that was in the early beta group to where we lost everything that we had bought, and then again, it was fake money at that time. But then with real money, buying it for real, like it was on, and I actually kind of like transitioned into a collector and got into the art scene in NFTs, building NFT projects. And so I'm rambling, but yeah, so early days with VeVe, and I just knew from what they were trying to do at that point, not only were they like running to where the ball's going, they were running to where the ball's going to be in 5 years, right? Like and they're still doing that. Like they're still like, people think, you mentioned like the sentiment is down, like I'm fine, and it's not because I got in early. I'm fine because I've seen them go from, hey, like, and this is something that not everybody really knows, but early days, they were going to come out with one version of the app called Ecomi Collect. And they're like, no, we can do better. And so they scrapped most of it, kept the core thing, and then it became VeVe. And the name at first, like VeVe, everyone was like, what the fuck is VeVe? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, and looking it up, if you Google it, before VeVe became VeVe, like the only thing you could find out was like voodoo. And they're like, we're doing some kind of voodoo app? Like,
you're wearing the right mask for that.
Right. Yes. The secret is this has all been a voodoo. No, just kidding. But yeah, no, we've come a long way. And I think for people that have just gotten here, and even just gotten here in the last year or so, you're still fucking early, and things just are not being built out. I think there was like somebody was polling today saying like, what's the best like marketplace, and everyone's like OpenSea or this or other, and it's like everyone's lighting them up in the comments of like VeVe, because VeVe is a marketplace, and it's sleeping, right? It's not, they've not marketed it to the masses yet, but they have the things for the masses. And a lot of people, whether it's sub retail today, you need to realize that like when more and more people find out about it, they've got their favorite IP, they're gonna come, and so you're kind of able to, much as I was able to reap the rewards of being there early, it's still the early time. It's just I got insanely lucky to see the writing on the wall as it was being kind of from an idea to reality. But those things, like, still there are things happening right now, I'm sure, behind the scenes at VeVe and Ecomi that are ideas that are now just being put into reality that no one's even thought of or ever thought that would be coming.
That's why it's great to hear your kind of full intro to crypto. And let me know, is my screen a little bit laggy?
I just think that's how you are. No,
I'm just doing the robot really slow.
There's a slight chop, but okay. I stay very stationary, so no one would notice it.
No problem. I'll see if I can fix it here in the thing. But so that's good to understand kind of your experience from starting in crypto, you know, hearing about it early, and then you had success early. Like you actually saw the effects of an initial, you know, huge run up, like you mentioned with XRP, got into Ethereum early, and then put everything into Omi. And so you've, you know, within 10 years of you first hearing it to where it's been now, I mean, it's been absolutely crazy. It's going mainstream, and you saw kind of where Omi was going, where VeVe was going, invested much earlier than most of us, and saw the run up. Yet, you know, you're still you've added to your positions at different points. And so I think that's good to understand, you know, your experience with it versus all of ours. Because same thing, like I first heard of crypto back in 2012. It was like a friend from high school telling me about it. And I was like, I'm not going to remember how to find this, even if I buy it now and I don't get it. And so I pushed it off, heard about it again in 2014, didn't do anything then. And then when the bull market happened in 2017, 2018, I got in with Ripple in 2018, and then I watched it drop. And, you know, that was my first experience of a bear market, but then went heavier in. And then when I actually did see kind of, you know, got heavy into it, was starting to reap the benefits of the bull market, saw Omi, saw VeVe early, and I was like, this makes sense to me. Like, I understand NFTs, I understand the power behind brands and what they can do. And it's great to kind of see someone like yourself who's got into it. And, you know, we're in this kind of down market in the VeVe marketplace. Omi is significantly down, even though since Bitcoin dropped from 17K up, it's been one of the higher performing tokens versus Ethereum even. And so it's great to understand, you know, where we're at now. And some people jumped in at the top, right? Like some people jumped in at the top of the bull market, this last one, and now they're riding it down. And so those who jumped into VeVe at, you know, 50,000 plus Spider-Man, who are now holding it, and it's, you know, $10,000, they're probably freaking out. So I think it's good to get some perspective on what happens in cycles. And this is our first experience of a VeVe bear market cycle.
Yeah, I think that you bring up a great point. I've got some friends like that are personal friends that I was like, they're like, I've got a little bit of money, I should put it in, like, I want to put it into crypto. I was like, look, I'm wild and crazy. You shouldn't, it is not logical to do probably as I do, where I'm 100% in on, and I've got some Ethereum or whatever, but like, as far as investments go, like if I had $50,000, 100% I would just market buy on Omi right now, right? Like, and why would I do that? I'm happy to peel into that, but I advise friends. I was like, look, do what you want. You should research it. I'm going to be biased because that's literally where my money is. So you should confirm, like, trust but verify, kind of like what I'm saying. And I would just tell them, like, they have the largest IP. It's connected. This is a token that's not yet been shackled or hooked up to the app, but when it does, there's probably only one way that it can go, and that's without saying any kind of NDA things, right? And so they put it in, and I'm like, just know there's a chance that recession and bear market and all these other things can happen where your money that you put in it's life savings or whatever, like, that you're risking, could go down. That's how crypto works, but it can also go up. No one knows the future or whatever. But for me, something that's tied directly to a top 10 performing app and still just getting started, the writing's on the wall, just like I saw it before, right? And so they did, and they're down right now. And I'm sure it's super, super stressful. I'm sure it's super, super stressful for the person that bought, even like I sold a Spider-Man for 50K, right? Like, but for me, it wasn't like, haha, I'm going to dump on these people. It's just like, I was hearing people say, hold to the moon, and like, it's a holding club and everyone join in, and only if you've got this NFT. To me, that's a sign always. Like, I did the same thing, and people, we need to get over the sell shaming thing. But like, again, I'm transparent by default. So like, I don't hide behind an alt. I could easily do it, but it's Brock. If you see McBlockchain on the thing, I'm selling. And is that a signal for you to sell? No, it's a signal more than likely, because I for most of my collection I hold. But I got handed a free blue thing, like blue Jurassic Park thing. Yes, there's only 424 of them. I'm not saying it's valueless, but like to hear everyone building like a club around it, that like I've seen that before. And usually when there's a club, it's a trust fall exercise. And so I'll take the $1,000 or 900 or whatever and walk. And it's a little bit lower now if I wanted to get back in. But for me, I love Jurassic Park too, but I've matured enough to where there's going to be more stuff that I probably truly care about. And that's the game. Like I've got like kind of an investment arm and then a collecting arm. And if it's not a direct investment where I see a ton of stuff, then I usually bounce out of stuff. But I'll sell it at the floor. And that's an opportunity if you want to sell shame me or whatever. It's an opportunity for somebody else that maybe believes in it more than I do at that point to pick it up. And I'm not dumping on anyone. I'm moving into other things that I would prefer. And some of it is, as you mentioned earlier in this, like the artist. Like for me, I think that the art, I think has been, I'm going to like try and avoid disrespected, but I think that people haven't walked into the art. I was fortunate enough to start spending like 4 and 5 hours into the morning on Clubhouse, talking to these people, hearing their stories, hearing how I understand like why they do certain things. Like that to me, and that collection piece is almost on par with major IP to me. And you might not resonate with it. That's totally fine. But like for me to hear, sorry, there's tons of artists that are coming to mind. But Alison Bandcat, for example, like listening to her talk about like stuff that she was working on, and how her process and all these other things, like for me, that story and owning a piece of like what makes her and the things that she's able to produce, it's up there. Like the story and owning a piece of that story brings back those memories, or there's an art piece that moves me or makes me feel something. And if you don't understand the art, that's fine. I'm not trying to be some art snob, but for me, those pieces are the things that I want to surround myself with in the metaverse, as much as major IPs. And so I think there'll be a mix. And the cool thing is Veve literally has plans for something for everyone. And so for me, it's the art, and then there's other things that I really, really like. And just I'm less enthusiastic about two dinosaurs nuzzling up on each other.
And
that doesn't mean
that
other people can't like it, right? So
and I do want to get kind of into basically like the major brands, how well they've done. Actually, give me 1 second. I'm going to reload this because the lag on me is driving me nuts. And let me know if you see me lagging. I just want to make sure that it's either on my end or if you guys are seeing this too. Actually, before I reload it, let's get to Harris's question, just because I do want to respect the super chats and I appreciate when you guys super chat. Thank you so much. Are we getting OUP in production this year? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think
that was a hard yes.
Yeah, so I think OUP, right, is a program, and so are we getting the whole thing this year? I don't know. We'll see. But I also think that sometimes people get comfortable with a certain speed of things coming, and then thinking that that's a fixed speed. But sometimes you can put the gas pedal down a little bit. And so we'll see what happens. There's sometimes things change, right? If I had just knowing what I know from just development, right? If I had a sizable budget and I could find the right people and hire, not just like X amount of devs, but like put developers in groups and say like, look, you guys are focusing on Omi to NFT. You're focusing on the raffle system. You're working on this. You're working on accessories. Now those can move kind of in parallel. And so really it's about organization and just driving things. And I would just, sometimes you got to wait for like things like, I don't know, making sure your regulations are good and up to snuff before you really go all in on development and things like that. And these are just, again, my experience as a developer on, I would want to kind of just make sure that ducks are in a row before I go all in on something. And so maybe you pull other things forward and make sure that like, payout and those things are set. And then after that, I mean, you can just focus on the next thing, and it seems like the next thing might be OUP. So yeah, I would not be shocked that development could definitely deliver this year. Also, I'll say this, I've said this before, but like we saw the MCP program, the first one that came out, the first iteration was like, oh, that's cute. And then the second was like, holy fuck. Sorry for my unprofessional cursing.
You're good.
And I think it's exciting. And I think that can even be iterated on, right? Like most things don't just count to 1. Sometimes you count higher than that. So like 1.0 is one thing, but I'm sure that eventually there'll be 1.5 too. And maybe it's the final iteration for right now, and until things just naturally kind of bump up. But like we got the first OUP, and I think it was a little lackluster in some people's eyes. They didn't really like, it was hard to see the vision, I think. And then I don't know, sometimes things just like way level up to where it's just like kind of, I don't know, something that would make you want to keep adding.
Yeah, and I think we're always in this kind of what's next mentality, right? So there's always something new delivered, there's something exciting, and then everything rallies up, like San Diego Comic-Con rallied up, and then it was kind of like, okay, what's next, right? So everything was pushed for that. Everything was pushed for KYC and MTL. And then all of a sudden, it was kind of like, okay, we got it. So what's next? And so there's a lot of things on the roadmap, right? We've talked about OUP, we've talked about MTL, which is now here, but now there's like a pause on it. New verticals, one of ones with artist program, localization, exchanges, interoperability. Which one of these do you think will have the largest impact this year, and then forward looking into actually having, what's going to really bring in the noise, kind of like what we saw in November when they announced Disney?
Yeah. So you're, I guess, just to make sure I better understand the question, you're saying, was the thing, in my opinion, that will bring the most like boom to Veve, Omi, or which, or both?
Yes, both.
Okay. So for Omi, I think it's going to be all of the OUP. How? Because I think it's really going to be this like just like chef's kiss masterpiece, if I had to guess, as to what was in there. And so I think that will just like make the token go crazy, because again, you've got this like fueled up rocket that is Veve that they could. I feel like they have so much like in the wings, and not just so much Disney. I think they've got so much of these other things too that just we have no idea what they've probably got. And just like I think there comes a time where you just think about like, holy crap, what if they just have everything? Like that would be insane, right? And so with that, sorry, I'm hearing a little bit of echo. Is that you, me?
I don't hear echo,
Okay.
but
It's fine. Anyway, it was like I was hearing my own voice back to me. But anyway, so I think that there gets to a point where you just like, holy crap, they've just got everything, right? Like that would be crazy. Like I could believe that would be something someone could feel. Anyway, so with that, I think that you're about to like take this rocket that's fueled up, that's got so much things, and connect this token to it, where so we get accessories, right? Well, accessories are, if they're not licensed IP, you might be able to get even a price cut if you buy Omi, right? And to where now I can save discounts, and now my risk for resell, if I even want to resell them, is less because my buy-in was more. I could literally almost like arbitrage within Veve of buy primary for Omi and sell for gems or whatever. It's like there's a lot of different interesting things there. So I think the whole entire program, but that's kind of a cop out. I think Omi to NFT is probably going to be the thing that sets the market on fire to some degree, because if I'm an Ethereum whale and I want to get into these Veve things, I could just flip ETH to Omi through even like Uniswap, and then go right into the app, buy stuff, and if there's interoperability, go and flip it on another marketplace if that's what I want to do. But I think that's even short-sighted for interoperability. But
can I ask you something on that though?
Sure.
So
yeah,
because one of my thoughts is for the Omi token to really like shine the brightest in the next big bull cycle, it needs to be readily available on a lot more exchanges, have a lot more pairings. Like when you look at the top 10, even top 20 crypto, they're widely available in a ton of exchanges. And obviously we had a monster run with the exchanges we did have, but that was also the first discovery really of the token, right? So it went absolutely ballistic in 2021. But with that in mind, once Omi utility comes and you can spend Omi into the NFT market or into our digital collectible marketplace, would ETH whales really want to hop into Bit4X or Gate.io or AscendX in order to swap out into Omi in order to buy collectibles?
I think there's twofold. I think eventually we could see a world where we get crypto to NFT as well, which would be pretty interesting. Just because I think Wire would allow that, and they're also kind of doing it in a regulatory compliant way. So you might be able to just do it direct, but you might also see that Omi is favored probably in the app.
And Immutable X marketplace as well.
Yeah, or there'd be even a way to, say I use Ethereum, maybe there's a slightly higher fee, and then that fee contributes to burns and all kinds of other stuff. So Omi's still winning even when other people are using. That would be cool if that happened. And then, yeah, I also think that like, I don't know, sometimes, and again, I'm biting my tongue like hell right now, but sometimes
you're always biting your tongue. We just can't see it.
I try. Yeah, it's a habit that I have. But yeah, I mean, I think that like you have to think like how many people are in crypto in general. and how I use the analogy of like, I can't have my mom go and buy me something off OpenSea. It's too cumbersome, but it's really easy through VeVe, right? And so crypto people, I think, are used to like using exchanges and stuff, but then like VeVe found a way to kind of level it up and make it easier to buy NFTs. And so I don't know, I'm sure I could think of a couple ways to where I could make buying Omi easier.
Got it. And I did want to address this comment just because I saw Daniel, who's supported the channel, comment, I've had such trouble cashing out. I've already submitted tickets, everything you can think of. Still have not received my payment since July 15th to my bank.
I think Alex just addressed that like the other day.
Okay.
Yeah, he said basically they're churning through the queue right now as quickly as they can to get everyone KYC'd. There was an issue at one point in time where I think if for some reason you triggered a payout and then it said it paid it out, but you never got money in your bank, to submit another support ticket to VeVe, and then they will help you out as quickly as they can, because there was like a known item. Now, if it didn't really happen to you, where you did a payout and you got paid, like they've got records. So don't be a jackass and flood their queues with like whatever. But truly, if you did a payout,
I don't think that's Daniel though. He's pretty standard.
Oh,
guy.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying in general. There's a lot of people watching this, like, oh, have free money. Like that's going to slow things down for everybody else. But
there's audit trails everywhere. Which
right.
The way I look at it too is, I get it's frustrating because you want to leverage that money now or even in July 15th, right? Because markets were down. Mm-hmm. So I get it. Like that is frustrating. And right now, I think the payouts on hold, or they're working through some kinks, but
I think it's for crypto only. Last I heard, like the crypto payout is on hold.
Oh,
but maybe all I know is that like I think the payment provider is probably one of the top tier ones, and also doing it in a compliant way. But then having the avalanche of the VeVe fam, like who's been chomping at the bit to make it real, and actually like see like, look, prove it, see it's not fake money, ma, I'm the best. I think with that, it's just there's a huge influx, and so they're working through shifting regulations in a couple countries that happened, payouts, making sure that they're moving smoothly through a number of banks that maybe the wire's either not used to or not used to in this volume. And so the cool thing is, much like we've seen with VeVe, things only get smoother from here. And so although it's frustrating, I'm sure that if there's an issue, VeVe or the payment processor will address it as quickly as possible, and then not only fix it for you, but going forward, things will be smoother for everybody behind you. So it sucks, it's painful, but we're super early. So sometimes there's friction that will be cleared away as things go on.
And I mean, the fact is it's here, and it's being worked on, which, this was one of the major catalysts, right? Mm-hmm. All the time we're seeing one MTL, one money transfer license, the ability to cash out. It's here, but it's not perfect yet. So this is one of the largest catalysts I've been waiting for, because it's really something that a lot of people have been waiting for in order to really jump in and really be recognized as a true marketplace, right? It's one thing to put money in, but when you can't get money out, it's a frustrating thing and it's a hindrance. So, what do you think this will have long-term effects, right? So we announced cash out, the market did go up, but then it went back down. So I guess how do you think this will have a long-term effect on the growth of VeVe and just new users coming in?
I think that it's so this might be a little bit of a wide answer, but I think long term it's super bullish, because they're one of the few apps that you can buy something, collect it, love it, enjoy it, and then if you see something that you enjoy greater, or you look at in a recession, like I do love my Spider-Man, but I also like to eat and pay my bills, and you're in some kind of hardship, being able to sell that and cash it right out. Although some people, I'm again not trying to say like it's super easy and there's no problems. Like I think they're open to that. There's been things that they've been trying to work on, and it is the first couple of months of rolling this out, they went from like, we're going to trickle it out to everybody. So I think that with that comes compounded issues, and you kind of find these edge cases that they're working through now. But longer term, I would say give it three months tops, probably, just from the way that things go. It should be super, super smooth. For the ones that did not have issues, people were posting on Twitter, which I'm super happy for, because I haven't cashed anything out. This is the fastest cash out. I had money in my bank. It was super fast, and it was super smooth, and like all. So like, as much as there are some people that have friction points, and I feel for them, especially if they're in need of that money, VeVe doesn't want to hold your money. They're trying to make a system that works for everybody. They gain nothing by like keep making you have more troubles. It's really, they're trying to push for the best possible experience, and I think the majority of users do have that. If you're living in one of the countries that had shifting regulations, or they're trying to navigate that as well, and trying to make it to where it's available for more people. But so long, how does this affect longer term? It's that safety, that security of, oh, this app isn't going anywhere. I think there was a lot of fear that like VeVe can't do payout because they lose money here and here and here, and so there's no way that they're insolvent, and that's why. And like all of those things are gone now, I think, because like anybody that wants to, again, aside from the few people that are having issues that they're working on, can cash out. And then I think we even had a chat where I'm like, I think that initially it's going to cause this dip, and then after that there'll be this climb because it's real. And I think some people had said something on Twitter like, well, when does this climb come? Because it hasn't come yet. I think you gotta chill. Like the landscape is also still like a fucking bear market, right? And it's still in recession in some countries, and it's not just the U.S. It's people are feeling it, and these rippling effects. And so sorry if your Spider-Mans or whatever bags haven't pumped like you thought, but also you have to look at, like, pretend you're a new user and you just KYC'd, and you go on and you see a Batman Who Laughs for like $20. Like, I'm going to buy it for $20. I'm not going to go and buy yours for like the side effect of us getting new users while everything is down is those new users have a lower barrier of entry. But the thing that is also doing is coiling back the spring, where when more and more users come in and buy up all the 20 and now all the 30 Batman Who Laughs, and now it's $50, $100, that's still a palatable price for someone that really wants it. But the people that bought it at $20 are at a 5x. So that now they're like, holy shit, 3 months ago, I bought this thing for $20 and now it's $100. And so it's like euphoria, kind of excitement. Holy shit, I want to double down and buy more things. It starts to ripple again. And we kind of have these waves of new things. Now, other people will say like, oh, there's infinite drops. Yeah, there is. And so I think that there's going to be this where you have to start to choose. I think early on, the game was buy the thing, make a 20x, repeat. And like, that was great for the people that did it. But now that we've got more fandoms and other things, it's just, sorry, go ahead.
That goes really well into my next question, which is VeVe's now dropping a ton of content collectibles every single week. I mean, to the point where, it seems like every couple months we're getting like almost daily, right? There's like 4 comics in a row that are part of a set thing. But with them dropping so many collectibles every single week and building out this massive marketplace, do you not think there's any downside to this in terms of value of a lot of the season ones, or even for like artists and posters and things like that? Because we've seen it affect the prices, right? They get kind of lost in the background of the historical drops, right? So do you not see any downside in this? Because in a way they're kind of, from a lot of perspective, flooding the market. So how are some of those kind of older brands and older artists really going to stand out and continue to gain value?
Yeah, I think that is an interesting question. So I look towards some of the other markets, so like the Steam marketplace and some other things that have been around for a decade plus. There are still stuff that it takes time for the market to mature. But then those older things, like, holy crap, there is only like 7,500 Todds, and that's if some aren't locked up in like bot accounts or whatever the case may be, right? Or money laundering things. So like the real supply might be different. But like, it seems like a big number now. Like there was a time where we were joking early days of like, Todd, 7,000, like what the fuck is that? Like, no, these are never going to move. You could buy a Todd off the primary market for like $80 or whatever, or maybe it was even less, I forget. And it was a joke. It was like they've way overshot the demand for these things. And sure enough, now like there are ones that sell daily for 5 and 10. I'm probably off on the valuation. I haven't checked into Todds in a bit, but there's still like, there are some that are in like the sub 100 camp that are way up there in multiple thousands of dollars. And so I think it's just, you need time, and you also need those fandoms to show up. People joked about Tokidoki like early on. It was like I was giving them away as like a way of onboarding people, but like I have a lot of love for Tokidoki because that was the first brand to sign on for VeVe. Now, does everyone coming into VeVe like know that and have that history? No, but over time, I think it'll be there. And their fandoms still, like, things move like crazy on eBay. Like their fandoms are just not here yet, and they just don't fully understand of like what they can do with it. And I think that takes time. Even though it's AR or 3D, when VeVe shows a video, like a thing on it on social media, sometimes it feels flat, or it feels like it's one of those cards that's just a flat animation of a 3D object.
Right.
And so I think you have to experience the AR for it to click. And so I think like, even I was not at San Diego Comic-Con, or maybe I was, but it would be cool to start doing really, really good demos of like showing them in AR and how they can move and how the cars can move. Like, I really think that it would have been awesome to have the Chimichanga truck on like display even before the drop, and making that drivable. Again, asset creation, pipelines, approvals, probably easier said than done. But having like a drivable thing there that was Marvel branded would have probably gone a huge way in turning heads a little bit more on, oh my God, this is an NFT, but it's like an RC car, and like I can't smash it into the wall and have to buy a new, like, there's just so many things that I think the benefits, and it's just so early. And to try and, I've seen Randy onboard people because he's just got this charm about him and stuff, and that he is like great at that. But also like, it's getting to the like past like the NFT, the word NFT. Like, these are digital collectibles, just like everything you see here at this Comic-Con. However, these don't break, and you can play with them. Like, that's the difference, right? Like, and I think once people get bit by that bug, or see like some of the great content that's built from like these showrooms, you start to see the huge difference in what the VeVe thing is versus everything else. And so your original question, sorry for waffling on, was, do I think that they are hurting themselves by dropping things constantly? If you were looking to play the same game of buy and it immediately is a 10x, it probably seems that way. But there are still things like on most of the drops that we've gotten recently where the higher tier is still a 2x. Do the other ones go sub retail? Sure. But that's because there's a certain amount of people that are just like going for the thing. I'm gambling and I'm just going to sell as fast as I can for the other thing. And people have caught on to that. And so they're not going for drops as much if I know I can get sub retail and finish 75%. So we're seeing this like shift in mentality. And that's interesting. But also like zooming out and looking at what I was saying, like some of these Steam markets, you can see how like the ebb and flow of things, the floors naturally just start climbing over time, and having something for everyone. There's opportunity by having an abundance of different things where a new user can come in and get something at a reasonable price instead of walking in and going, why is everything $10,000? Like it's this balance, right? And so I think that people need to, like, even in the earlier interviews, I think David was saying like, the common typically is like the coolest pose, and we make the most of them, so more people have a chance at the coolest thing. So I'm common gang because I'm still bullish that even in the small things of buying a Cora at $8 and selling it at $60 is fucking insane. Like within like less than 1 year or whatever the case may be. I think that just you can't always go for the I'm going to make $6,000 off everything, and so the market needs to mature. The sentiment might be down, or like, but the fact that we're still getting all this crazy IP gives you more choice. And so again, the best strategy that I've had is have this kind of like 2-lane thing of like, these are the things that I want, and trying to have the constraints of, if these things naturally spike up on a drop and then start to calm down, and there's that, you got to catch the ring just in time before it starts to like find its base. And I've been looking at a lot of the data with that. But then also just like working things, like sometimes things take time. And so if I know something's going to be really, really sought after later, I'm making the investment now to stock up on those things so that I can release some of them later, have those funds to circle back to like my hit list of things that I really want. And I also think that we haven't seen it yet, but in some gaming like kind of factions and stuff, you get these like, whether it's a guild or a fan group, not in like the hold group and like everyone trust falls, like no one sell, okay? Like when that starts happening, like it's a dangerous spot because you're almost saying like, if anyone sells, the thing no longer has value. And I think that's strange to me. But you'll start to see like car heads, like gear heads coming in and saying like, these VeVe collectibles, not only can I drive them, but they got the engine sound down pat. Or if we get into customizable collectibles, like having a fantastic, or it's the car, Fast and Furious, sorry, car, when those finally drop, where you can adjust or upgrade certain pieces. And so you buy accessories that now you can attach to yours, and now it changes the sound of the car. Or so, like, we're not even there yet, but like I can already see again where things are going. And I think that's going to make it to where you get these people that really appreciate these pieces. And when they're limited, and again, limited, there's 10,000 of them. When we have 1 million people active in the app, and like, again, I think people get hung up on like hard numbers of like how many are active versus unactive and all these. The app is going to keep growing because the fandoms and everything else is going to go growing. And then when someone does get something that's really, really cool and they talk about it. Like, look at your channel, all these other channels of content creators, like you get in and you're like, holy fuck, this is awesome. And there's just so much content and so many things to say and so many ways to enjoy that David and Dan and the whole team have really put the collector's experience at the. I think a lot of times people get caught up in like the markets, but like the collectibles themselves are way above what's there, and that's today. Looking at go ahead.
I was gonna say, like you said, a lot of things. So I want to unpack a little bit, but to your point, it came out in October 2020. It was right before a bull market started, and it was crickets for the most part up until February when everyone started catching on to it, and then obviously it went ballistic, right? And so, to your point, San Diego Comic-Con, I think about the fact that, they said that we did actually bring on, thousands of users. That was higher than what they expected. But the fact is we're now in a bear market. And if you look at NFTs anywhere in like the mainstream news, it looks like they failed. Just like crypto dropped, NFTs across the board dropped, right? And you look at something like Bored Apes and all these like main, the gold standards of NFTs that are still high in value, they also took hits. But if you look at like people who hit a waltz on drop day, they're still way up, even though they've dropped significantly down to, around $5,000 now. There's plenty of drops like that. And obviously we did have a bot problem, which created a very big difference in supply and demand. So the prices were insane. So we had a bot problem. So supply was limited. And then, so people were willing to pay a lot higher to secure something that they love or want. And then you also had a bull market, right? So now we're at these throes of a lot of people's first experience with the bear market, right? So they're like, shoot, I invest in this project. It's way down. There's no way it'll come out of this. But every bull market, there's always an out, right? And NFTs, for the most part, didn't make a splash until 2018. And they did well. And then they went completely dark until 2020, 2021. And then it went to NFT mania. And I guarantee you that's going to happen again in the next, and not financial advice ever, but it's going to happen again, especially with the push towards metaverse. The fact that NFTs were added to the Gartner hype cycles, there's tons of main top Fortune 500 companies that are actually putting in NFT strategies into their growth models. And that is why, like, if you're with the right project, especially one that has most of the major IPs that other projects don't have and will die off on, I think you're going to be fine long term.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing's promised or guaranteed, but I think if anybody, again, the one that is taking it, I mean, you've been in the space of like investments and things like that, as far as like just where the money is going into for fundraising, and like VR and AR was huge. Apple's been lingering with something like that. VeVe has both. There is NFTs, which we've seen different cycles on, and it's still super new. That technology is not going away. It's only going to become ingrained in everything, like where movie tickets, concert tickets, everything is going to be an NFT. It'll get to the point where we stop saying it's an NFT, and I think VeVe's even later on that, where it's a digital collectible, because NFT gets such like hit with such an animosity because people don't understand it, but digital collectible just makes sense. So it's a shortcut, right, in explaining what it is. But NFTs are not going away, and VeVe's combining all of these. They've combined their experience of the showrooms and stuff. Few projects have even that, and VeVe's got all of these. VeVe is like 7 apps in one, and I get like, we don't have a search bar like that they can add, right? Like they've got the main things, all the heavy lifting done, and so there is like a rhyme and reason behind their kind of, I think, their path. But anyway, that's not to be said. Like, give us a search bar, please. But there is one on the web app. But anyway, I'm getting all over the place.
Oh no, you're good.
I do think that's NFTs are not going anywhere, and the fact that we can get these, and sure, like there's a lot of drops, but those drops could be the thing that pulls somebody in, right? Somebody might just see those Marvel ice cubes and be like, "What? My whole life I couldn't get these ice cubes." I'm sorry, the Tesseract I do actually. I think it's pretty cool, but the memeability of some of these things, like it just goes to show the community is good about calling things out. I do think we need to slow the roll a little bit on some of the artist stuff, but that's just, I get that I'm probably biased, but like going like, oh, this is much better. So-and-so is better than this. Like, realize that these artists sometimes have jobs where they work with these large IPs, and if they're excited about VeVe, they're coming to it, they're putting something that they're not some big team like Marvel that's got 80 people who got to sign off on it and give their things. It's like one person or a small group of people that have actually created something, and they're sharing it. For you to like bash it, if you don't like it, don't buy it. But you don't need to like show up in a comment and be like, just so you know, fucking hate what you've got going on over here. Like, it's not helpful. And if you go and bash them and turn what could be a really positive experience for them into something like, oh, this was terrible, I can't believe I made this mistake. Like, yeah, I sold some stuff, but their community is just ruthless and not supportive. And then now they go and tell other artists and other artists, and even like it gets eventually to like the Jim Lee Batman like era, right? Like, these artists know each other, right? And so just let's not shit on someone that might even if you don't like what's coming today, it's something for everyone. So like, just don't buy it, and just, it's fine. But let's not go slamming doors on people just because it's something that you don't feel anything for, because you don't know who they know or who they might come across. And let's let those artists be, excited and oh, VeVe, you're thinking about going to VeVe? Oh my gosh, it was a great experience. Versus, oh, you want to VeVe? I don't know, it was really shitty for me. But anyway, just my 2 cents.
No, I agree. And that's a great point. Like, they do know each other, and you never know who they could then turn off, who could be looking at VeVe, right? Or like they're already in conversation, like, well, I saw a backlash from, Matt Gondek or Ron English, and so I don't think I want to do this anymore. And so you never know how that could have. So that's a really good point, and thank you for that. And actually wanted to add to a point on what we were talking about with like the search bar in the app and like kind of where it needs to go. Sure. But before that, thank you for the super chat, Raji. Really appreciate it. And he says, could you please ask Brock which price does he see Omi in 2025 next bull run? We know that, the next Bitcoin halving is 2024. And then usually sometime around that point, we see another bull run. So what do you think in terms of price or value could Omi be at in 2025?
Yeah, I try not to give, I think at one time I gave a price prediction, and just like this context, right? It's tough to, whatever I say, someone's going to take as a soundbite, and no matter what happens, if I'm way under, they're like, look at how stupid Brock was. Or if I'm way over, they're like, look at this idiot. And so I'm trying to, it's not a way that I win. Not that I need to be right.
I'm right there with you, man.
But like, so it's a zero sum game for me to throw out a price. But what I will say is, I think that right now, if you look at the realistic tokenomics of this thing, it's like 750, and then you get to what's actually in circulation. And right now we're burning from a reserve, which doesn't directly affect the price too much. But the app needs to kind of, it's built to have Omi be the lifeblood, so to speak, of the app. That's just how it's set up. And that's great because it keeps the token having value longer term. But we've not had an actual way outside of some community driven things and some early circulating supply things that we had that had to get shut off for a number of reasons. Anything really affect the circulating supply. But I do think when you look at having staking, even if the price is low, huge things can happen, and you're not earning some crazy inflated unrealistic APY that's unsustainable. You're actually potentially earning maybe like super rare collector's items that you could only get by being in this phase of staking, and then maybe over the first year you get the whole set of something, and then the next year it's another set of something else. As you continue to stake, you're getting these like really, really rare collectibles that you could only get through staking. And if they really do something cool where it's like a rolling staking tier or something like that, where it's, this is the Batman one, and so you're on the track for like 4 Batmans, or this is the Spider-Man one, and it's this is the Mighty's track, and it's, instead of doing 4, you're actually getting 40 or something like that, because they're a lower tier, but you're getting more of these exclusives or alternate outfits or whatever. I think that's going to entice people into the pool, and that will lock up a significant amount of the supply. Beyond that, being able to actually use it and having it burn, a small percentage here, a small percentage there. I mean, it would be interesting if someone quantified out how much, just even like a 2.5%, when things are being bought and sold all day on the secondary during a bear or a bull cycle, what that actually looks like and what that could do to a supply. And I'm sure there's also the Omi track for the raffle system, I think it is, where whatever you wager blindly, you're going to grab it off the secondary and have a potential to get something that's a grail at a retail price, or even just a drop you really care about at a retail price, and then burn that straight from circulator, like what you've wagered. And then going back to your other question about like, is it too many drops? If every single drop is burning Omi, that's pretty weird. So I think I'll just sum it up with, I think the supply is seem real big now, but when you start using it, I think it's going to be a bonfire. And then you've got on top of that, it'd be really cool if somebody made something that used Omi, and then they were going to probably open source some things to make it even easier for other people to burn Omi. And it's games today, but what if it's like community events, or just a real application, or some kind of data collection service that helps you analyze markets or whatever? All of these things start using and burning a portion of Omi in a sustainable way that supports growth for their companies, but also burns straight from circulating supply, where it's almost like, I don't know, a huge token ecosystem. I think that when you do all of that all at once, there's only one thing that can happen to the token. And I think certain price points that people might have their eyes on just become inevitable and just a stepping stone all along the way. And if anything, history's taught me, just follow the steps.
And I think that's a good way of looking at it too, right? Is you look at it more like, what are the catalysts that would have already enacted on, or where will Omi be in 2025, right? So we saw the price go from completely undiscovered to shooting up to over 1 cent. And people who invested early at that point, you know, like yourself, made an absolute ton of money. But that was back when no one really knew about it. It was on 2 exchanges for the most part, and then it went ballistic, right? But obviously now it's tracked back down. But the fact is there hasn't been a lot of catalyst to actually happen for Omi itself. It's been building everything for Veve. So when I think about where Omi can be in the next bull cycle, I hope that there's going to be at least 20 pairings, you know, multiple exchanges, so it's readily accessible. And then we go back into that discovery mode where we're seeing the top channels talking about Omi again, because they're no longer, right? They're not really talking about NFTs that much anymore, in fact. And then I also think about, like you just said, is we've burned what, 60 billion or so in the past year. And that's all just based on a token that doesn't have utility. And it's just, well, besides burning when there's, you know, collectibles purchased, but what happens when you can actually use Omi for those collectibles? What happens, like you said, which you got my brain going a little bit, is when you can stake and lock up those tokens and get maybe super, super rare collectibles. Maybe that's how you can, you know, get something that's almost like, not like an airdrop, but rewarded for having such an investment in Omi, that you can sell that and dictate that price, and you're just getting rewarded for your staking ability. And then
if there's Omi to NFT too, you could sell it for Omi. So then in a way, we're not creating new tokens, but it's an actual, I don't know, realistic, sustainable system that allows you to earn either collectibles that you really care about, or the gems if you want to cash out, or the Omi if you really do believe in the token, and you can have it any way you'd like. Yeah, and then you can use that Omi to then go and get more drop. Like it's I don't know, it's just this weird kind of almost system that just seems to click together when you think about it.
Yep. And I fold it into the VeveVerse, right? And I know that they said you'll be able to spend cash and all that, but I hope they're going to actually build out some advantages into spending Omi that is going to reflect, you know, okay, we want Omi to burn, we want to reward stakers. That's going to translate into the VeveVerse, which I'm already expecting to be, you know, make, once it's actually here and like refine, maybe it's phase 2, phase 3 of next year, but that's going to make a lot of people actually pay attention to it because it becomes a metaverse play then.
Yeah, I like to pretend, because my daughter likes Roblox a lot, right? And so I'll play with her. I didn't really understand the hype, but then I was like, holy crap, you kids have like a metaverse and you don't even know it, right? Like they're playing this. And what does my daughter want for her birthday? She wants Roblox, like or Robux, right? The money. What does she want for, like, because like for her allowance, is she paying it in fiat? No. Roblox. And so even if at the end of the day, all we get is Roblox, but with all the major IPs, the microtransactions of, oh, I want this skin for I want this Spider-Man suit, or I want this for Mickey Mouse, I want this accessory, I want this in my house, I want this vehicle to get around, and I want all the, like, look at how much Roblox makes, and then swap Robux for dollars, or excuse me, for Omi, and then yeah, I'm sure it's not going to be worth much. You should just sell right now.
If you compare the user base and how much money has gone into Roblox or
and those kids hate Mickey Mouse, they hate Disney, they hate Marvel too. All those kids hate that stuff too.
Compared to like Sandbox or Decentraland, I mean, it dwarfs any decentralized metaverse. And I do believe in a decentralized metaverse, and I will, you know, look into like some of those and invest in those. But I truly believe that you're going to have some kind of centralization, some kind of hybrid metaverse in order to reach the masses. And right. And like Meta's taken a shot at it, but there's a lot of distrust there. And I think having those major brands, those IP that everyone grew up and loved with, where they want to embody and actually have socialization in something like this speaks to that audience, right? We've already saw the app go ballistic based on the fact that you can't cash out just because we wanted to collect what we already love and know. But there's no real communication. I actually saw a post actually mentioned, or that Omi Clown touched on, is that you can have the best feature in the world, but you can't. No, not that one. Sorry, where was it? Okay, 6-word wallets, but reach is still. I think it's something about communication. I gotta find where it was. But there needs to be some social aspects for sure, right? Like right now, we all live and breathe in Twitter, in Telegrams, on YouTube. That's how we communicate. You know, we meet at events, but until they really fold in the social aspect, the ability to actually interact with each other, that's more than just, you know, a social media platform. It's not going to actually really make our community as big as it can get to until that happens. And that's why I talk about the VeveVerse so much, is because we've been dying for communication in the app to get better, right? We want social features. We want, like, I'm taking a TikTok just to play with my collectibles to show how fun they are in AR. But when I can actually do that in a metaverse world, and then people can go to social media, post that, it's going to bring in a lot more awareness, and then bring in people who go, oh, that looks super fun. I want to jump into this world, whether it's VR or my computer or whatever, and actually do these drops as a fan and like see live concerts, right? And so I think that's really where it needs to go to really continue to have our community flourish.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the metaverse, I've been doing a lot of consulting on metaverses, and I've been doing a lot. And then also with Feeshes, I've got I'm building 2 metaverses, if you want. But yeah, so like with that, I do think you're right. And I think Veve has all of the opportunity to make it to where, you know, how does the Veve fam really get down? And some of it's going to be an open, like we're hanging out at Mickey's Castle or whatever the case may be, if Disney plants roots there, or we're going to this, like you said, concert, or we're going to what we do now with Twitter Spaces, but it's now in someone's actual space that we all go to, right? And I think it's inevitable as well that's where we head, and that'll allow us to connect and show off and just enjoy like all the things that we like. Like really, I think at the end of the day, the VeveVerse, despite having like all the feature lists that we want, all of that will come, but it's going to be self-expression at the maximum, because you can say, look at this room that is just all the things I love, and someone can come and experience that instead of like, they don't even have to like, oh my God, you like Batman, like, or ask, it's all around you, right?
Yeah.
And being able with Veve to like break the rules. I think that's another thing that people like discount, is that like in the showrooms, you can clip through walls, and like that's a feature. That's not a bug. It's because I want to stretch out my Alice and Bam Cat poster on the wall, so I can get like, I want a whole almost like mural from one of my walls, and then I can hang other 2D on top, or I can clash the two together, and like it's an expression of me, right? So it's able to create from other creations to then show off and inspire others. So
I mean, those showrooms are what attracted like Tom Bilyeu and some others to actually like go, oh wow, like I've never seen an NFT project do this. Like people are building art and creating incredible showrooms. And I'm going to address this question here, because I do have kind of a question on that. So they've said that the first phase, which sounds kind of like, you know, like VeVe Homes, which I'm always picturing like Animal Crossing, like that's the first phase, is supposed to be coming the end of this year. So do you think with the VeveVerse coming that might kind of kill off some of the vault, like building out your vault that way, because you can now have it in a metaverse world? And to Wubbo's question, do you think we'll get some sort of VeveVerse this year?
Yeah, I know their priority probably is like Omi stuff, because that's the next kind of like thing that they need, that's been looking for a while. And then, but I mean, I'm sure that if you, I don't know, if I was doing things, I would probably have multiple teams working on multiple streams of work. And so, yeah, I would say that there's a chance that we see something, but I think everyone has Ready Player One with Mickey Mouse in their head, and that's not the first step. The first step is what I realistically think the first step is your vault that you can walk around in as an avatar in like a VR or web platform. and then having portals to where I can jump to your vault or you can jump to mine, and we can see each other's stuff. And so do I think the Vaultaholic stuff goes away? No, I think it levels up. I think up until now, it's been single player builds. What happens when I can give me and 3 friends or 5
the Minecraft
friends
strategy,
the ability to, hey, we're doing this build for so-and-so for Omi, and we're going to jump in, give us build rights. We build it out. Once you approve it, kick us out of the access, and now it's yours, right? I think that we're going to see lots of stuff. I think we're also going to see, like, you know, back in the day, like the thing that was really cool back in the day, I think back in the day, I sound like I'm a VeVe old timer, was like the DeLorean. Everybody wanted that, and being able to like actually drive that around. But like, what if my vault is a giant racetrack now, and everyone can race their DeLoreans around? And then I give somebody a Cora, because Coras are probably like the most sought after collectible, to whoever wins, and then I can transfer it right within my showroom and stuff like that. And then beyond that, maybe I set up around Halloween Ghostbusters with Slimers everywhere that actually like pop out based on actions or whatever, and then we can throw a ghost trap down and trap them, and it turns into a game, right? And I think this is me showing my hand a little bit, but I think gaming in the metaverse, everyone wants to look at like these AAA things, but I think not everyone's a gamer, right?
Yep.
But everyone wants to socially interact. And so I think the games that are really going to take off, and you've seen this before, like that Fall Guys game, right? That blew up.
Mini games.
Yeah, it's the
Mario Party.
It's the games that are just fun and don't take a ton of skill. And so, like in the Feeshes, the aquarium, there's a game that's coming along with that, and it's going to be very, very. I've invented it, spent many hours. It's taken me years up to this point, where you'll be able to play hide and seek in the aquarium. So no, I didn't do hide.
Can I bet Omi with that game?
What was that?
Can I bet Omi on my hide and seek game?
I think for this part, like I'm working with the folks at Spatial to try and really push the limits already. It would be really cool if they did some kind of token interaction. I mean, like, I don't know, I might have built a library that's going to come out soon that would make that things easier. But yeah, so probably not the get-go, but like, I want you to be able to go and see people's fish tanks, like live tanks on the wall, and that's what I'm working with them to where you can I can make an NFT of your fish tank that is full of NFTs, like NFTception, and then you can drop that NFT in, and it's a live shot of your tank. And if you change something, it changes it in the metaverse. And so, like, I want that interoperability to push the limits there. And so, like, yeah, it'll be like a 6-story aquarium, and you'll be able to go. Elevators are stupid, so we use like tubes, like in the Jetsons, to get to like places. And so, yeah, you'll be able to basically have one person face the other way, everybody else runs, jumps to whatever floor they want to get into, and then each of those floors have supply closets, or I don't know, who knows where you're going to go when you go through one of those doors, but places to hide, and then you have to go and find them, and then it'll be a fun way to experience.
I'm happy that you brought up Spatial, because that is part of my point too, is you see, you know, when things are kind of stagnant with VeVe, or even if they're not, like, people are just kind of branching out and getting into more projects. But, you know, as brought up to me, I was in Twitter Spaces and I heard, you know, Des from Brooklyn and a bunch of other people talking about Spatial, and I've looked at it. I still need to actually go into it and play around with it and build things in it. But that just, and like every project that the VeVe community hops into and brings others into, it just floods that community. It builds that community. And most of the projects usually get really, you know, thankful about it. But when I look at some of these things that they're building spatially, they're building their own VeVe vaults in there, right? And like you're building Feeshes in there, and it just shows what that need is, right? Like, we're looking for ways to communicate further with each other before we even get the VeveVerse, and building our version of what we want in the VeveVerse already in these other platforms, right? And so I think that's already a precursor to what we'll see, is when we can all hop in there and you see it just lighting up Twitter when we're all in there, it's going to be infectious, right? And so I am excited to see, you know, what happens with that. But it is cool to see that these other projects are kind of giving everyone a taste and getting them to actually see, okay, this is how I kind of build things. And I love your idea about collaborative building, kind of like where people get together and build these crazy things in Minecraft. So my strategy is I should be stacking up as many Tesseract ice cubes as possible, so that way you and I can build the frozen castle and have Elsa standing from it, right?
Yeah, we weren't supposed to talk about that publicly, but I guess it's out of the bag. No, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of things. Like, even like, I know we mentioned earlier, like people kind of like shitting on some of the artists. Like if you don't like it, don't buy it. But like the weapon rack, I think is a cool statement that to me triggers nostalgia back to like the old Ninja Turtles. Like you used to literally get a weapon rack when you'd buy the action figure, and so like I thought that was a cool kind of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge to some of that. But those pieces will kind of almost become base pieces. Like if I wanted a weapon, or I want some kind of like even a bar, or for the longest time it was, you want shelves, use the back of a DeLorean, clip through the floor, right? Like some of these pieces will be collected and sought after just because people love them. But other times it's like, these are building materials, and so I'm going to hoard them because if you want fire, you need a starfire, or you need, you know, the ghost trap to have like all the things, or like the Coke. I still think the Coke sphere is just a creative master toy, and all the different effects that comes with it. And so yeah, I think you'll see another layer of people that are just purely builders. Like I'm just here to build cool shit and make showrooms and make Omi off of it, where you can, you know, transact for services. Like I could truly see in some iterations, like almost like a job board of, you know, I'm a vault designer, I'm a this, I'm a that, or whatever the case may be. And yeah, it could be super interesting.
Yeah, and I actually look forward to like where people will say, "Hey, I want this really cool VeVe home or setup in the VeveVerse, but I don't have the time to put in 100 hours to make it crazy. Hey, you know, can you VeveVerseaholics, you know, make trademarks, don't take it. I'm kidding. Can you guys build that for me?" And there'll be a whole different kind of like gig economy potentially. And, you know, I'm trying to like be realistic without getting too moon boyish, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of opportunity. And obviously we have to temper some of our expectations because we know there's going to be different phases, but the way they could go with this based on our community, based on what we've already done with an app and just building things this way for a long time, it's pretty remarkable, right?
yep.
So when you actually have the ability to do that on your computer in this actual large metaverse with all of your collectibles and things that don't take forever to do it, or even a VR setting where you can grab things and put in it, like that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, the flip side, I think also, or another way that could be possible, is the Vaultaholics or anybody spends time building collectively together, and they can actually save that vault and sell it as a thing, where you would say like the price of the vault that we've designed is this. And then from that, you'll also need all of these pieces because you have to have your collectibles to build it. And it's almost like a shopping list, and you just hit buy now and you grab the vault. It creates that in your account, and then it uses all of the collectibles that you have, and then you're good to go, right? If you need 10 ice cubes from Marvel, then it buys those for you. Like there's tons of potential there, and I think you're right. And then just communicating, I guess, on some people have this mentality, and this came up in the spaces recently of, well, everybody that goes to spatial is a trader, or everybody that goes to Decentraland is a trader. Like, no, they're exploring. Like, let them do that, first of all. And second of all, just because VeVe is coming with a metaverse that we all are like chomping at the bit to use, doesn't mean that spatial can't also win, or that spatial can't also portal into your VeveVerse vault or whatever. Like, it's a metaverse. We want it to be open and connected to different things. Like, that's what makes it cool. Otherwise, even as cool as VeVe might make it, there's going to be a content lull. Like the topic of like, what's next? Sometimes somebody might build it in spatial, and the fact that we can go portal from VeVe into the spatial, see the cool thing, and then come back to VeVe if that's your home base, if you will. Like that is an opportunity for everybody to win. Web3 is way more inclusive, and Web2 is I need your company to die so that mine can thrive.
Right.
Web3 is like, hey, if you're doing something cool, let me link to it. It's more open, it's more inclusive. So like, I don't know. My wish list is like, can we just chill the fuck out with like the hate? Let people buy what they want. Let them sell whatever they want. Like, it's an open market. Let them sell below the floor if that's what they want. Like, who cares? It doesn't. If your thing has value, it's not going to be disvalued because someone needs to run out of it. You don't know the reasoning. Maybe they need the cash because something like terrible has happened. Like, let it go. And same thing with jumping into another project or whatever. Like, please don't get rugged. That would suck. But like, just because someone's jumping into something else doesn't mean that it devalues anything that VeVe's doing. You can all of it can exist, and VeVe can still be great.
Yep, 100%. And thank you for the super chat, Crypto Khaki, the Todd Father in the house. Something as simple as in the app name search and ability to decorate and pin your vault on your profile for people to visit and comment on would go a long way and let me flex my collectibles. I mean,
I think that's coming, actually. I think they've already said a couple times that like they needed to get core components done first. The next thing, obviously, is search bar. They've committed to publicly, but it was a while ago. They said profiles would have an overhaul where you could actually showcase some of your vaults and let people experience those. The cool thing people don't really know too much is in the social feed, as kind of meh as it is, you can actually like share a vault to the social feed. Someone then can go in it and drop your vault in their living room or wherever, and then you can walk through their vault. So like that functionality already exists. And then I don't know if this is known, but if you use the web version, your vault actually has a URL. And so right now, today, you could go into Spatial, make your actual vault a portal, and portal into your VeVe vault. Now, it's not connected where I see you and you see me, but you can see, like, you can share just like you could share someone's vault. So I don't know if that's intended functionality, but technically it works today.
Huh. No, I did not know that. That's actually pretty interesting. I need to play around with Spatial for sure. So wanted to get back to one question that I do have. And you've talked a little bit about like the artists and all that. And obviously, artists, a lot of the collectibles are down. A lot of people are kind of hesitant for going on them on the bear market. I understand it's kind of like one of those things where if you like the artist collector, like I can't wait for Mumbot to be in the showroom. I'm going to go for the drop. I don't care if it drops below because I'm trying to support that artist anyways. But my question is, right now, we have to think about it, investors, right? Like obviously we're all nerds. We're collecting our stuff. We like our showrooms. Cool. But we also have to think about the fact that we don't want to lose money. We want to try to make money. It's part of the fun. So right now, Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, they're the kingpins in terms of retaining value and or buying something that then goes up, right? We saw you could have bought a Spider-Man for whatever before San Diego Comic-Con and then sold it right to lead up to San Diego Comic-Con for I think like 50-60% gain, which it's probably about 10 grand. So my question is, do you think that there's going to be does it make sense to just keep always going after Disney, Marvel, Star Wars as like a value trader? Or do you think we're going to have brands that will dwarf this? Do you think we're going to have artists that could actually, take that crown off of this king of IP, king of brand and value in VeVe, whether it's Nintendo or some artist that could come in? And I guess like, how will that really affect then the Disney in Star Wars collectibles? Like, will they get lost in the shuffle like some of the other brands? Long question, go.
Yeah, I think that it's going to come down to a number of things. Like, I think that I think there's other like artists and stuff that will be coming to the app that probably will kind of move and shake some things. I also think that, like I said, there'll be niches, right? And so today you might not see a Mondo poster and be like, that is the thing, that is the top item in the app. But I can tell you there are people that wall to wall in their house are Mondo posters or line up at Comic-Con for the exclusive. Like Mondo is fucking huge, and I think people don't understand that. Like,
and they're required.
Right. Funko doesn't just anyway. So Mondo and the people at the have really super talented artists behind them and that they work with and whatnot. They also have a really good pulse on what's going to do well and what's not going to do well. And so when I say like disrespected, I actually mean in that sense kind of disrespected, because the audience in the app really don't know what they have access to or whatever. You can look at some of their posters, retail price versus what they go for on eBay. Now, are they like crypto moon prices? No, but for a poster, they do really, really well. And some places, some of the posters they've dropped are almost looked at as like, this is the poster that I wish they would have gone with. And right, so then you've kind of got this blended of art, movie nostalgia, or music. If we ever get like the Mondo records, which is a whole nother like line, if we get into movie stuff, that would be interesting. But yeah, so like, again, I'm not saying go buy all the posters, but I do think that there are things that people just, they don't really understand the significance of what's in there. And so I think some of the artists or some other brands can come along that when those fandoms show up, you're like, wait, what are they priced at? Like, and it's just a matter of getting those fans in. I also think that like you're a huge proponent of localization. I think that opens this up to a huge chunk of the world that's just not exposed to NFTs or not exposed to whatever, where VeVe can be their kind of gateway into those things. And I think that there's other fandoms in other languages that are much bigger, maybe not bigger than Disney, but much bigger to where they could take a significant chunk of the app's popularity. And the cool thing is we get access to all of it. And there might be a brand that is huge that I have no clue about, but I see it in Veve and now I'm a fan, and I kind of like work backwards in. And I think that'll work. I think that's probably the biggest thing. If you listen to Mike, the GM for the US, and his latest talk, one, you can see how far ahead Veve is in that conversation compared to some of the other folks. No disrespect to them. Just like, yes. Sorry, Michael. Yeah. Anyway, but the with that, I also think that that's something that Veve's looking at that's kind of flying under the radar by a lot of people is the care that they're taking and the hand holding they're having to do with some of these brands who are like terrified to put their brand out there because they don't want to have backlash or damage. And we've seen some brands that felt from their fandoms backlash. I think that they'll start to realize that, like, you had some people that were in the app that were really, really excited that maybe don't already own products that probably would have bought, just like we're seeing physical things move from the Veve fam. And so brands that are walking into that now I think are reaping the benefits, and that's only going to compound and cascade, I think. And so do I think there's like one killer brand that we get that, like, you know, catches them all and stuff? Sorry, I had to say that. Do I think that there's one brand that kind of tips the scale? Maybe, but I think also there could be a collection of brands that together do kind of match. And so it's just gonna be interesting to see how things evolve. But I don't think that there's a reason that, like, at one point they had 180 brands that were unannounced, and we've still not seen even a chunk of them. And some of them are ready and want it, but they're timid, or it doesn't directly align to like a strategy, and so I think there comes a time where we get daily multiple drops. And so just as much as Disney will be prominent, I think that we could go decades and still not run out of content with them. That's not to say that other brands aren't just as old or just as unique. And some of them are super, super niche and will come with a huge value explosion when people realize what they have access to. Other ones might come out and grow and they stay stagnant, or other ones that come out that have like a kind of this fighter brand in them where they drop, and they might not be Disney, but they drop, they're cool enough, the Veve fan enjoys them, and then they realize what they have. Like, look at Matt Gondik. When he dropped something, he understood the assignment. He dropped something and then dropped something again, and then also did airdrops, and people ate that up. Now, love it or hate it or whatever, there's a lot of people that get fixed on like the price versus the value, and are living in the moment versus the longer game. His fans are not here. If you look at his prices for his pieces, they're like $5,000 like minimum, and you've got access to go and buy them for $30 or $50, right? So like, I think we just don't know, and sometimes it takes a mob of 1,000 people coming in, going, "Holy shit, this is in the app, I'm in," and everyone's like, "Wait, well, what's the deal with it?" We've only had like this kind of, not mob mentality, but like, I think right now you said there's like this
kind of deal.
there's this thing on Twitter, right, where somebody says something and everyone's like, "He said it sucks," and everyone's like, "Yeah, it does kind of suck. Yeah, I would never say it." And then someone's like, "I kind of like it." And they're like, "Oh, it is kind of cool, actually." And like, we like flip, whoever's the loudest voice is like what kind of happens. And not saying that mine is louder or I care, or you should do exactly what I say. Like, make your own fucking choice. I don't care. But I do think that there'll come a time where people like regret not catching on sooner to like researching what it is. And I think that's why it's important for a lot of these content creators like yourself that do like hella research, that are providing this value for everyone to like better understand what is coming in the app. It's amazing that we have folks like yourself doing that for us almost free of charge completely.
Thank you.
And so I appreciate you, and I appreciate tons of people, whether I've been on their channel or not. Like, I do watch a lot of the content because there's just different takes and different perspectives. And I think I say constantly, probably more lately than ever, is like, the market is just not mature yet. We are very much flailing. When things go down, everyone's like, "What's going down? Who moved?" And it's like this almost superstition, like, you tweeted on a Thursday? Why would you do like we get this like causation and effect, rather than just like, sometimes things just go down, sometimes things go up, sometimes there's something in the outside world. So
to those points, remind me of something that I wanted to ask you, and I don't want to forget it, but real quick, I think this was actually a good suggestion. And I'm going to ask this question, then we'll actually discuss Feeshes a little bit, and then take some more questions to the community. But what are your thoughts on Veve using users being able to donate some of their lower value NFTs to new users in exchange for MCP points? I think that's a fantastic idea. I do hope there's some kind of, giving ability or something that you, and like, I like the idea of getting MC points, but at the same time, you still can, you know, like there's the ability to turn on transfers again. And we've seen people who've given other people collectibles, we've seen giveaways and things like that. But I do think that's a pretty cool idea to actually have the ability to gain, you know, some MCP points just for trying to help out new users. And to that point, Turtle Lance even set out, you know, do we think VeVe should give all new sign-up users a free, maybe branded collectible so they can enjoy the AR? We talked about that for a while, and I do think that would be a great little push. But this also feeds into the question I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
We've talked about it in the past. They've mentioned it that'll be coming after the cash out, which is hopefully finally just about there. They've talked about marketing, and you know, there was actually a really awesome Twitter Spaces, and I can't give her enough credit for this because it was fantastic. I can't remember who ran the Spaces. It might have been True or someone, but Veve Magic hopped on and she spoke about, you know, like Disney and like how people get frustrated that, you know, Disney isn't retweeting and aren't promoting Veve. And her point was, she's like, well, think about it. Like, they took a risk just doing Veve in general, and obviously it's paid off for them. But for them to retweet it and bring in the flood of people and then to try to educate them on NFTs and not get people super angry, which they will, they needed to make sure that there was the ability to cash out, right? Because they can't promote something, they can't market something if there's no real reason or able to cash out and build value on that, right? If I go to Disneyland and I buy a $100 snow globe, that's an anniversary edition, I can probably flip it, you know, 10 years later, like people do with actual Disney collectibles. And that had my brain going. I was like, she's absolutely right. And that's probably why a lot of other licensors still haven't done so. You know, even Marvel's done a little bit, but not a ton. But my question is for you is, what do you think is going to really come with Veve actively marketing? Like, what does that look like and what its effect could be?
I think from my knowledge of like marketing, it's like 5 or 6 exposures that it takes for someone to join, right? Like, so like I have to see something 5 times for me to even want to try it. Unless it's a free sample at Costco, then usually it's like half.
And you get that free sample 6 times over.
Right. That is the scientific proven. Yeah. No. So there's a bunch of questions like before. So I don't want to ignore those two, but like for as far as marketing, like what do I think comes? I think the whomever it was, I don't want to attribute something, is absolutely right. There are some things that just ducks need to be put in a row before Disney's going, like, they don't want that fire, right? Like it's one thing when Veve's taking shit in a comment on or a tweet, but when it's directly now targeted at the brand, I think that's different, right? And so I'm sure behind the scenes, Disney's like, yo, we've got this long plan, right? Like Disney doesn't just do something. Usually it's a years out, right? And so you might even heard David say, like, we got Disney like way before, and you're just now hearing about it, right? Like there's things that have to happen and things that legal and all the, like when you see something like an Electra, like that's like 80 people that have signed off on that thing and legal teams, and that it aligns to this movie and this other thing that's kind of like, it is not just like flying by the seat of their pants with Disney. And so I think when marketing truly comes, I think that, I think it's just going to be a floodgate, right? Because it's, I don't know, I've pointed out things like when, for example, these are all just publicly available things. When we did the deal with them, it wasn't just Disney. It wasn't just Marvel. It was all of Disney. Well, what does Disney do? They make content. They also have like TV shows and merchandising and theme parks. That's interesting that you bring that up. And so like, how could you, if you're a brand and you want to drive more traffic, and you look at how Veve and the Veve fam and how digital collecting and the experience has been honed, and again, it's not perfect. It's a thing, but it is. How do I buy an NFT and then have immediate utility in a showroom? Most NFT projects can't do something like that. It's buy a thing and then maybe we'll do a thing later. Like, no, immediate utility in a showroom. You can show it off in AR. There's so much that you can do with a Veve collectible that you just can't do with other things. And so I think that tickled where Disney saw. And I think if you were going to like magic things up and look at like, I don't know, there's like, what are those band things they have? Like where like, I don't know, it'd be really interesting if like you can right now tap things in the park, but like, what if you had a certain collectible and you tap something and like a new door opens up, or you got access to something, or you get to skip the line, or you get discount on food, or your experience can be leveled up because of these other things. And that could work one way where I've got the collectibles already. Or what if I don't have the collectible and I could rent it? I don't know if we were doing renting things. Wait, aren't we doing renting things? That's weird. Anyway, it's like all of these things start to kind of like tie together where you're actually kind of weaponizing experiences in a park or driving more traffic. Well, I have to go to Disney from here to here because that's when I can get if I'm physically there, I can get the only minted for during the time period, like Tinkerbell and the super thing or whatever. Like we've not even begun. And so like when people say like when marketing, like I don't even care, because it's like you realize how fast they can just turn it on and have look at how many people go, even in a pandemic, go to these parks still. Like granted, there was a time where they were closed, but like even with numbers kind of suffering because people are afraid to travel, people still traveled to Disney World, right? Like it's like the mecca for families. And so when you get that, and you somehow, I don't know, if there was a company that made buying NFTs or interacting with NFTs really, really easy, like you could just download an app and then now have them combined with a theme park that makes it easy and its experience. Like when you combine all those things together, I don't know, it just gets kind of silly.
And there's an entire wing of Disney that is AR focused. Like there's already like this setup thing where they had an app where you could like take selfies in AR of things. They've have the bands that have haptic technology. So the magic bands that
wave
go
your
off
hand
with
and
fireworks. Yeah. I mean, they're pushing that way. They're going towards the metaverse. They've already said they came out with the Mirrorverse, right? They have that gaming and it has the characters. I mean, there's so many.
And what are we doing with like letting families like kind of connect their accounts or whatever? Like that's weird too, right? And then like, so if you like, say I'm in the park and like there's a show and like it knows my magic band's connected to my parents' account, which is connected now to my VeVe account, and like they know that I've got this Elsa, and so when everyone else sees one experience, I actually see something that's more personalized or whatever. Like that would be weird. Anyway, like these ideas, they're just like ideas, I'm sure. But yeah, so like. When marketing, I think that like there's a way that you can get way, I don't know, sometimes dreams come true and sometimes things are better than, I don't know, magic's fun.
Yep. And I agree. I mean, it feels like it's been a long time, but it's a tech startup that really didn't kick off their main product until, not even 2 years ago. And so there's a lot happened. I think there's a lot that's still being worked out. And then the marketing makes the most sense when it's ready for the masses. But I am looking forward to the start, dripping into that side. And I have one last question that's Veve or Omi. And if someone else has questions, happy to talk about it. And then we're gonna get into Feeshes.
What were the two? Sorry, I forgot the two that before we got into marketing. There was two that you put up on the screen.
They spoke about how it'd be really cool to be able to like gift.
I do hope they turn on. I was a proponent of, hey, let me tell you about this Veve thing. Now that you've got it, let me hold out your code. Let me send you this thing.
Yep.
Now look at it AR. And now they've got like a memory and an experience. And now they're like, that was really cool. And then they go home and they're like, some weird thing happened to me. Some guy in like a luchador mask came up and gave me this sea pony. Do you want to see the sea pony? Yeah, I do want to see the sea. And then now it's cascades, right? Like there's this like, it's almost like this grassroots marketing that can be done with the transfers. I do get though, maliciously, I could say, hey, Taps, I'm going to introduce you to Veve. I'm going to send you this. Just send me this crypto first. And where it is, so I see that. But I think if one person is KYC'd and the other person's KYC'd, just let them, there's a history of that transfer. And if you see it too much, then you know it's malicious, right? Like, I think there's ways to do it. So I think there's a safe way, hopefully, that we can walk towards restoring transfers for giveaways, charitable events, like all these other things. So I do hope that we get that back. Because I think there's more upside than down, especially now that we're all kind of out front and center with KYC.
Yep, completely agree. And my last question that's Omi Veve oriented is, we've seen, like, we're obviously clamoring at the bit for trying to get Omi utility, right, from Veve themselves. But we've seen community projects building Omi like Feeshes and Epico and many other projects that people are actively building that's going to burn Omi. So they aren't waiting, they're building Omi utility into the project. So do you think we'll continue to see other projects beyond just community members that are going to use Omi? And I guess the second part to that is, what do you think is the bigger picture for Omi entirely as a crypto coin that today really doesn't have utility into where it can really go? So outside of community projects, Omi utility, and then what the big vision is for the token itself.
Sure. So I think I'll keep saying this as like the Omi is there was originally a plan, and I think it was set up to kind of fail, and I think the team caught on to that they were sold kind of a shitty deal, in my opinion, and so, but that they didn't give up. Much like with other things, I think they found a better path forward to something that's sustainable. That's not just rigged to make certain people like really, really rich and not, and like almost like leave everybody else holding the bag, so to speak. So it's taken a little bit of time, in my opinion. However, the way that I see it is it's a system or a platform that this token can support, and Veve will be kind of like almost like a table with like just a really strong center column that's like bolted to the ground that keeps things stable. But then we have the luxury of having community projects be like another leg of stability. And I think there'll be coming a time where another leg forms that can also use Omi. Now, why would a project, most of the time in crypto, you see like, oh, we're going to make our own token and we're going to do it as a fundraising thing or whatever. Well, sometimes a company needs to do that because they're kind of trying to take from here and they can't, for whatever reason in crypto, we can't go get normal banking things because that's centralized. But anyway, I think that's another topic. But I think that maybe what if you didn't need to fundraise to have your project because you've already done it? You're actually offering to burn or use Omi because you want access to the Veve fam, where it makes sense to align to this ecosystem. And so they're getting the benefit of almost like you said, like win marketing. What if you can get exposure to this fanatical group that loves connecting and that your product aligns to that? So you're almost like buying into the token system for exposure and you're giving up a little bit of profits, but now you're using this token system. So like I could see a world where that comes in. Or you mentioned earlier, like marketplaces, like I could see it being a centralized thing. Like I don't know, there's a really cool guy that I know once that said like, what if like Omi was just like the NFT token, and like just the one, and so like that would be cool if there was like, I don't know, some kind of crazy plan to make that all possible. So yeah, I don't know. I do definitely, for whatever reason, see a world in which that is true. Yes.
Awesome. No, I think that's helpful to understand because, and again, I have, Omi is my number one holding, and like I diversify. I have a lot of crypto, but it is my number one holding just because I believe in this so much. And I'm constantly always looking forward, right? Like I invest now for what's going to be big in a couple of years. And that's been really effective for me, right? Like I invest in green energy. It did really well, took that money, invested the next big thing, right? And so I see this doing really well, and I see the use cases that it can become. But the thing is for me too, is I'm constantly reminding myself it needs to be more accessible, right? Like it needs to be, if it's going to be the one token, it needs to be able to either have like Moonbeam, like be able to buy it directly with cash, or it needs to be able to like kind of like how OpenSea has, or it just needs to be openly on like KuCoin, Coinbase, Binance, like all like as many exchanges as possible. And that's the side that constantly keeps me kind of like, okay, I know that we're in a good spot because it's done so well, even though it's down, but it's still doing well with none of that. Mm-hmm. And like it's going there, but it doesn't have that today. So it's kind of like if I could have invested, before Robinhood and all that, in Apple, back when I had to call a broker and be like, hey man, I want to put $1,000 in Apple and $1,000 in Microsoft and this, and like I wouldn't be working anymore, right? And so the harder it is to access, the access is coming, but it's difficult now. And when that does come, you're going to be in a better spot. So it's this weird push-pull battle with myself where I'm like, I know it's good timing, but man, I just want to know when we can actually get there. And I need to see steps along the way to actually getting there. And so I'm constantly kind of pushing, like, we need exchanges in order for the token to be fully realized.
Sure. But like, so one thing that I think, why do I love like just being this journey, although there's a lucrative reward at the quote unquote end if you're planning on like an exit kind of thing, but like why this team? And I think and it wasn't just like for me the technology of NFTs and VR, AR, and blockchain all combining and converging. It was also the team that they've been around for in their respective fields for like multiple decades, like all of them, but also that they've been leaders and trailblazers in a world of Me Too's. Like and sorry, that's probably a triggering thing for some people. I didn't mean it that way. But like in Web3 right now, there are probably 94% of the projects and things that are happening are chasing their tails of whatever is the current fad. And then there's this other little subset of people that are pushing further, are building this thing just because they believe that they need to do it. I think that Veve, and again, call me Moonboy, whatever, is doing that. And if you follow their history, like there's been hiccups along the way. There was a time with there was like a miss up on a drop for Ultraman, and then the next thing they did was they gave everybody like a poster to make it right. And there was another hiccup where they fixed that, and it's not always been hiccups with drops, but like that was something. There was the mess up with, I think it was an earlier system with like the marketing, like where people were getting banned, and they did a fix for that. So like they've always done the right thing, and they've always tried to focus on like when they mess up, like they're taking risk. It's going to be a rocky road, but where they've done more harm than good, they've done their best to make it right. Can they always give everyone free shit? There's going to probably be a point where that's not sustainable, but they're still trying, I think, to do the best of things. But they've also done it different. Whereas everybody else is like, oh, we're going to go to what's the biggest marketplace? Let's go build there. No, we're building. We think we can do it better. And then there were times where people were screaming like, this drop system will never work. You're an idiot. I'm a coder. This will never work. And they're like, no, we think that we think we can do it. And did it take longer? Yeah. Are we still doing like this reserve system later? Sure. But like that drop system has been pivotal, I think, into getting so many people so excited and rabid and building a demand. And like it's been a core part of Veve, and they did it differently because they just knew in their hearts that would be right. And so when you look at, this is not a bash to you or anybody else, like when you look at exchanges, right? Like that is the way that crypto has done it. That is the way that it's known, but that doesn't mean that that's the right answer. That doesn't mean that that's the best way to do it. And so if you start to kind of like paint a picture of like, let's drop what's known and think about what would be the best, like the most optimum way to give people access to Omi, sometimes you get creative things that might come to mind about that. And I think that might be worth, like if I was looking at just the history of the team, that might be something that I would, I'm sure there's another way that they can make things.
I feel like you're leading me down a road right now. I feel like there's more to this.
No, just two friends hanging out on the internet.
Yes,
but yes, I don't even think these are just facts, right? Like factual. You can look at the history of this team. You can look at the fact that they are not. You can scream until you're the blue in the face of like they need to go faster. When. They took the value out of that of like, listen, we hear you, but we think there's a different way. We think there's and was the way like, let me take fucking forever for MTL? No, but they think that the better way was we are going where MTL and regulatory stuff, because we don't want to get tripped down the line with these bigger deals that we're doing. So we have to do it the right way. And we hear you that it's taking longer, but we have to do it the right way. And so they went a different path. And it's, despite people being upset that it took so long, it's here. And there are other things I think that they are taking the road less traveled, and we always kind of come out on top. And if for some reason there's a misstep, they do it. So like even in the short history of Veve, they've always done the right thing, and they've always kind of led instead of followed. And so I think exchanges is much like marketing is something that Disney can just turn on, and Veve themselves can just probably turn on. So are exchanges, if that's really where things need to go, and when the time is right. Because I think they've said like we can flip it. Like we want Coinbase today. Okay, cool. Coinbase, who is now like under fire for like also being possibly like all of these things. Like would that have been a great move? No, they saw the writing on the wall. They knew this was not the right time, and so I'm sure there's a day where they just Coinbase. I think we're finally ready. Let's talk and find the agreement or whatever. And I'm not saying Coinbase confirmed. I'm just saying like any exchange. I'm sure that they can get a hold of the right people, and having the success that Veve has, they're going to take the call, and it'll go right. But there also might be another way, like just like how they've done with how you buy NFTs. Do you have to fucking set up a wallet with Veve? Do you have to write down a private seed phrase? Or they found a better way, and so maybe there's a better way to support the token and all of that.
Yep, I really like how you kind of piece that together, because to the point when you think of like an NFT project, I like that when you said like they're kind of chasing their tail. Like we saw NFT projects, PFPs drop. They came out, everyone aped into them, right? Like all these projects. And then it slowly became the narrative change where it's like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna do an airdrop. And they're like, oh shoot, we didn't plan for that. We have to actually continue to do things besides just dropping more parts of our collection. Okay, well, we're gonna do that. And they're like, okay, well, we're also building a metaverse. And they're like, oh, we were gonna do that. But then eventually like the money runs out, the community interest kind of dies off. But when you look at Veve, they've definitely set their own pace and kind of do things their own way. And collectively, I mean, they're still really crushing it. They're still selling out drops, maybe not every drop, but they're successful. They're still making a ton of money for themselves and the big brands. And they've been doing it now for over a year, which is pretty crazy to say for an NFT project, because I can't think of another one that's pulling in this kind of money besides obviously like the main ones. But they really do get to set the stage and create their own things, their own pace. And it is interesting to kind of think, okay, like I look at top 20 tokens and I look at, there's not a single one that's not at least in, 80 different types of pairings and exchanges. However, we've seen plenty of things that changed this last bull cycle that was never something that we needed in the previous cycle. So I am curious to kind of see how that goes. But I do want to be cognizant of time. And I want to get to some of the Feesh questions, and everyone who's here on a Thursday hanging out with us, listen to us talk, being, ourselves just talking about Veve and Omi. Thank you. And hit that like button. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. I do want to talk a little bit about Feeshes, because when you look at like the different community projects and someone like yourself who just kind of came in and you just wanted to do something fun, I have a ton of different types of NFTs outside of Veve, and I've never had an NFT where I've received, 20 plus airdrops, probably at this point, 50 plus airdrops. And I'm actually profitable, like way more profitable than my investment in my 3 Feesh. And it's fun. Like you have an entire Feesh core, like there's people who are clamoring for things. And so it's really cool to see what you've built in a short time. I know you're building more, but my question is, what is the end goal of Feesh? And will we see further artists or other partnerships in the future?
My end goal was to make people feel something and to change the idea of what an NFT can be. I think that NFTs, we are, most of us that are probably listening to this talk have the luxury of seeing something like Veve, but that's not everybody. Like most people for NFTs, they think JPEGs, right? And so I want to change that and say, yeah, it's a flat image when you first look at it, but when you do, like when you go to the website with it, it's a lot. It swims around. It sends you emails. If you can't afford but one Feesh, that's okay, because you can turn portals on and have visitors and get the full tank experience. Like I wanted to try and think about every little aspect of an NFT project and say, how can I do more? How can I push it further? How can I make this the most value that felt for as little of a buy-in as possible? And I have the luxury of not needing, like fortunate for me and not trying to be a flex, I have the luxury of not this isn't something I need to survive. This is not something that I need to sell out. I do think that things are coming that will cause people to want to probably own a Feesh, but selling out is not this, like this goes back to Veve too. Like when people say like, oh, this drop didn't sell out, like I think the indicator of success in some people's mind versus the indicators of success in my mind are different, and that's okay. But I don't need to sell out to feel fulfillment. Like, if one person bought a Feesh, that person was going to get hooked the fuck up for a year, and then when we do sell out, there is again not a goal that they're like, oh, we have to or whatever. But the original roadmap, the only one that I have not checked off, is that when we sell 10,000 Feesh, it will extend for a second year of content. And what that will look like is going to be different. But yeah, so I wanted to give people an experience. And so I get it though. Some people look at it and like, it's just a dumb fish. But I try to make it way more than that. Like there's a lore. I've woven a world together where there's a story, and the Feesh email you and slowly revolt. I've just hired a voice actor.
I got my email where it came on with like a eerie audio clip, and like you had to respond with like 3 options, and I was like, oh, okay, this is advancing. I like it.
Yeah, and there's been like we've kind of had like many seasons of the lore. We're kind of ramping into the next one now with these. The Feesh have psychic powers, and they found a way through these like radio towers that ended up in people's tanks randomly to reach these people that live underground. And we've kind of made contact for the first time. This is the first time we've actually gotten to hear somebody, and so the story's just kind of ramping up. But yeah, there's tons of other things. Like if the lore thing is not yours, a lot of people like the surprise and mystery. A lot of people say like, I never thought I would be into this, but I actually love it. So for me, it's interesting to see what's kind of motivated people. But even if you just like tanks, then you can just sit there and put a tank on your TV or look at it in VR or whatever you want to do. The airdrops I see is like almost like gifts to just keep enhancing your tank over time. And I try and even push the limits with that, like where last month we dropped like an old record player, but there's like a DJ. He really looks up to DJ Octo, who's like a celebrity in the world of the Feeshes, and he's a little seahorse with sunglasses, and he dances to the music. So you can actually like load music in your tank, and so your tank plays music that you can choose. There's a giant like old school like billboard that you can drop another NFT into, and there's the first like widescreen kind of frame NFT, if you will, because a lot of NFTs go widescreen. So yeah, just keep going. So like even I tried to have a lot of different layers so people could enjoy it and feel the value. And then yeah, there's the game. We just wrapped up the first tournament, so we'll be coming out of beta soon. But I decided like I can push this further, and so I hired a really fucking talented friend of mine named Brian Morris to help me out and bring a vision that I had to life for this boss that you'll battle in the single player version of the game. And so the single player is like full speed ahead, like it's playable right now, and so that'll be coming soon. People were jokingly asking for land, like when fish land, and I was like, if I'm doing a metaverse, it'll be completely different. And so I contracted out a literal studio that some people are maybe familiar with to bring this like aquarium vision that I had to life. And then we're doing a second metaverse, and so there's another metaverse platform that I really enjoy, but it's completely different than what most people are used to, and it's called the microverse. And so I'll be one of the first few people to kind of start building there, waiting for like full access and everything there to start building. But that'll be an entire fish like city. And so in this 2D version of the fish city, you'll be able to actually go to the aquarium there, enter into it, and be teleported to the 3D version, experience that. Nothing about Olive Garden though, so don't ask any questions about that. But when you're here, your family, and then you can go right back out the front door, go back to the 2D world, and there's anyway, I do so much I forget, but there's an inventory management system, and so airdrops, sometimes you can combine this NFT with this NFT to merge into a new NFT, and just really just pushing the limits and what's possible, so that no one has a fucking excuse.
That's awesome. I mean, when did you start Feesh? When was the first drop?
So we started on the 19th of November, but I would call like the first start date, because there was like a pre-mint kind of thing, like we'll call it December. And so I'll be going for this season of Feeshes until the end of December, and we'll see what happens with the story and everything else coming together. And then once we move all 10K, we will be starting season 2 shortly after. I'll probably take a 1 month off just to get some stuff together. But then yeah, it'll kick off and we'll get going again for season 2.
Crazy. We're coming up on the first annual Feeshiversary, and it's cool to hear, like, you know, it's one thing to drop a 10K project, but like I said, like you're giving out these airdrops. Like I actually did flip one of my airdrops and got 0.4 ETH. It blew me away. I couldn't believe it. And like someone wanted that really bad because it was a rare item, and people are getting VeVe signs and things like that. And like there's avid Feesh fam, and it's a really fun project, but it's very different. Like what you said is like, you know, you didn't really create it to retire with it necessarily. Like you created it because you wanted to build a community and to actually be an artist, and you're continuing to stack on it. You create a game that burns Omi, right? Because that's part of where that's more a lot of your community came from, right? So you're working with artists that either some of us know or that are connected to artists that are actually in VeVe too.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll know a few of them. But yeah, I've got a lot of artists that I didn't want to pressure them. And so I had like 20 plus artists say, definitely, for sure, this sounds amazing. And I think we probably dropped like maybe 5-ish, but they're busy. And so I don't want to push them too hard, but I just kind of casually like remind them like, hey, come play in the sandbox whenever you're ready. And then if you have an idea, as wild and crazy, like I'll figure it out. Like Brian Morris dropped a car, and it's this super sick, like chromed out old school car called the Fishtail. I think it's 76. And over time, while it's in your tank, it starts to decay and rot away. So like it literally like decays in the tank over time. And there's a driver that turns into like a skeleton, and the hood and the trunk kind of like move subtly. And so like it just came out of this. I just said, you know, sky's the limit, go for it. But yeah, the Feesh. Sorry, if anyone can't afford a Feesh and wants to join the fan, that's super awesome. I appreciate.
Yeah, this is part of it, right? Like every time, like I had one of your early works. The was it so too many fish or
the mini fish?
Yeah, I had one of your early works, and it's these fish, and like I think I showed my tank earlier, and it has different kind of like portal looking things. And there's someone in the fish fam who is trying to collect everything and like loves Brock's art. And I didn't want to sell one. However, you know, I got it early. Like I've known Brock for a while, and I was like, his fandom and his need for this, like, okay, I'm gonna do this trade for something that, you know, I'm not, I don't necessarily covet or want, but I wanted to help him out. And like, this is part of it, right? So Aggie James says, if anyone can't afford a fish but wants to join the fam, we want to hook you up. I have 2 fish to give away. Join the fish cord and hit me up. Aggie James, you're awesome. Love it. And I like this one too. Will you ever have an app or fish where it could be bought with credit card and just keep on the app if we want it?
Maybe. I really wanted
rough.
Another layer of this is you kind of this is going to sound cocky, and so I don't mean it to, but like you also get access to me, and you get that even through the fish cord. But like a lot of folks jump in and they're like, this is my first NFT. Like I get a lot of 2 camps. One, this is my first NFT, and the other one's like, I only have VeVe, please help, because I don't know how to do the other side. And so community has written guides like just on their own to try and help people. They work with people to try and like level them up and just make sure they're safe. If someone's like, hey, I got sent this weird thing, everyone's like, don't click it. So like everyone's like looking out for each other. And so like it's just a really good space all around to be in. And the fish cord is free, so like you don't have to buy anything. I will say, just because if you ever were on the fence about getting a fish, again, well, the 15th is a special day because it's a double drop. You're getting the normal airdrop that will work with your tank, and you're also getting the first and only, as far as I know, 3D fish that will work within Spatial. And so you get those assets for free. There's 4 variations, unless I'm lying and there's secretly a 5th one. But there's 4 variations I can confirm that you'll get airdropped at random, and then you can drop that in Spatial or other things. So you kind of get like a double. And then there's a triple thing that someone that I know needs some medical help. They cannot afford it due to their illness. They can't work. In America, where both of us live, work is tied directly to insurance. And if you can't work, then it affects insurance. And so they need some money. I'm not trying to beg anybody for money, but what I am committing to try and do my part to raise this for them, just because I feel like I can. 100% of the money that I make in Web3. So Feeshes, I'm offloading some of my treasured like artist friends like works because I just think it's the right thing to do. Anything that I make in Web3 until the goal is met goes 100% into the wallet called feeshforgood.eth. And so everything's 100% transparent. You can see me like withdrawing from Feesh, converting it probably to USDC and sending it in, and we're stacking it up. I'm almost to 50% in just over a week. And so if you were going to get a Feesh, not only do you get the double airdrop, plus all of the things for the rest of the experience, access to the game, access to executive producer credit collectively in a major Hollywood movie, everything else that goes with it. The Fish album is coming out soon. You get access to all of these things, plus 100% of the money goes to help somebody.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, again, I don't care if you don't buy a Feesh. If you, for some reason, cannot afford it, I try to keep the prices low. I understand, but even sharing it, if you think Feesh is cool, that's super helpful. So I appreciate everybody so far that's taken the plunge. Again, this is not about money for me. It's about giving people an experience, and that's all I've aimed to do. So much that my community jokes that they're rugging me. So I guess that's something.
That's awesome, man. And if anyone does want to get a Feesh, I did put the Feesh cord as well as the Feesh website and Brock's Twitter in the details of this video.
Thank you so much.
You know, absolutely love that you're doing something like that. That's really awesome. And I do see, if you guys have questions about this VeVe or Feesh, you know, go ahead and type them up. I do have one question I forgot about, but and I'll answer this one. But Norman, the real one, when do you think the next run up is coming on VeVe? I do think that there will be a good solid mini run up, depending on what happens with the economy end of this year, if VeveVerse phase 1 is happening, just because I think there'll be a lot of eyes on it. Plus, around that time, we'll be coming off the tail end of New York Comic Con and then Anaheim DCon. And then I think we'll transition into that VeveVerse side. The question that I forgot to ask you, Brock, and I think it's good to be subjective. What do you see as a large negative or downside that exists with VeVe today?
Probably interoperability, because and so I say that, I guess, carving out that if I was like, hey mom, look at this Batman, and she's like, wow, that's the best Batman I've ever seen, and I'm like, thanks mom, bad news though, I can't list it on OpenSea. I might as well have just made up gibberish, right? Like, no, some people just don't care, but
Yep.
I think if you're in the space, it does matter, but I think it matters for the wrong reasons, in my opinion. I think right now, and sure, like, play your own game as far as I want it so I can go and list it on Ethereum, or for Ethereum on OpenSea. You're about to have Omi to NFT where you can just sell it and then go and sell the Omi or whatever. But yeah, so that, I think that's in everyone's mind. But I've tried to signal a little bit that, like, once, like, even the game that I've made, I have plans for several. If people won't like playing the game, I have plans for other game modes that will involve a lot of other things, and it would be really cool, in my opinion, if a Marvel Mighty or a Tokidoki like item from VeVe, you could just transfer it to your Layer 2 wallet, and then you could use that as a playable character in some of the game modes within the Feesh arena. And so for me, I think that's the tiptoeing towards where interoperability really should go, is where I own this NFT. It's my digital toy. Why can't I play with it out in and over here? And why can't I play with it over here? And some of it will be metaverse driven, but other times it doesn't have to be, right? So for me, I think interoperability is probably the biggest downside from a VeVe perspective, because I think that makes the value and utility that a VeVe collectible has grow in just huge ways.
Yep. And I mean, to that point too, it's like the narrative is, if you can't sell it in OpenSea, is it really an NFT? Right. And like, that's the narrative today.
I can tell you that I can tell you from a technological standpoint, there are 1,000% NFTs. I think what people get hung up on is moving the goalpost of what an NFT is or is not. If OpenSea, like, we forget that OpenSea is centralized too, right? Like, OpenSea is owned by Y Combinator,
very much so,
company. If they go under, what happens to your NFTs? Nothing. They're in your wallet. Is the true thing. But so many people like assume that NFTs are equal to OpenSea, and like that's just not the case. Like, that's just one application, and so I think everybody has to kind of like level up their understanding of what these things are. And I think it's just a matter, just like MTL, just like Omi to NFT, just like all these things. There's a reason for the priority, and I think interoperability just comes. And I think if I was a betting person, like the type of person that goes all in on one single project, I would bet that we get interoperability for not just the artist, but for other ones too, because NFTs are not going away, and it's going to only grow. And so you think DC is going to, like, why do they choose Immutable X? One, I think it's going to be the leader, much like VeVe. They're very innovative in how they think, but also they're working on integrating global fees for transactions. So whether you as long as if there's a sale, that fee can still be collected, no matter if it's happening on the Immutables marketplace or elsewhere. Excuse me. And so if I'm DC, like, what, you think I'm going to be like, oh, no thanks, just the VeVe money, please? No, like, they're going to open it up. So like, just know that people can change their minds, businesses can change their minds, and interoperability is going to be the thing that not just allows you to sell it instead of here over at this flea market or wherever, but instead it's going to be the thing that I own this Batman, this Batman, this Batman, this Batman. And so in the new Arkham Asylum game, because my wallet's connected, I can unlock this suit, or I can do this, or because I've beat the certain difficulty and unlock this achievement in VeVe, I get a code that I can redeem. Those kinds of things is utility, value, and interoperability.
I love it. That's well said, and I couldn't agree more. I think that's definitely a negative that we've had for way too long. So thanks for sharing that.
No problem. Jake's question. There is a game mode.
I want to get to Jake's question too.
Yeah. So there's a game mode. Again, these are going to take. I'm a one-person shop, other than being able to hire out some super talented individuals for some things that are just. I don't feel I can execute as well as, like, I've got the idea, but I need somebody else to, through time constraints and just like skill level, need to hire out. So I do that. But yeah, there's a game mode where it would be really cool if it was like this fish, and a mighty teaming up to take down this giant mech that you have to kind of like defeat parts of. And maybe there's a hint of that coming in the single player mode, where you have to like, I don't know, take this boss down, and he has 3 different variations that you have to change your strategy against and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that would be really cool to do kind of like player versus enemy collectively kind of thing. And the current game mode that is in beta right now and soon coming out of beta is like player versus player. And so it's already multiplayer. So it's just taking that a little bit further. But it's a matter of time. And then I don't want to invest the time if people are, we drop the metaverse and, you get your key to the roof and everyone's partying on the roof of the aquarium, or I drop your like condo keys where you get your own land in the fish city that you can build out your own condo however you want, and people are just doing that instead of playing the game. I don't want to invest the time if people want something else. So I'm trying to just give all the value, and if people are into it, I'm gonna take it further. And if they're not as into it longer term, then we'll shift our focus to wherever the value might be next.
Awesome. No, I think that's really cool to see. And then we're just about at time. So Jay Inferno, I've not done a step-by-step video. I'm not sure if someone has, but just the link to the Feeshes website is in the details of this video. You can go there, link your wallet, mint now.
Yes. But if you need a little more handholding, feeshes.com/help.
Oh, there you go.
There's a bunch of guides there that the community have put together. They're unofficial guides, but they're vetted by me. They should be fine. Yeah, that'll help you a little bit. And then I would also say, even if Discord is not your fancy, the Feesh Cord is like its own thing. I personally hate Discord, but the Feesh Cord has some of the most insanely awesome people that I've ever met digitally. And if you just show up and say, help, 6 people will walk you through how to do it. And they'll tell you like, oh, okay, here's how to set up your tank. Oh, since you're just joining, here's like an airdrop. Oh, you sent them that? Here's this airdrop. Like, you're going to get hooked up if you just show up and join the community. And you can also show up for free and just ask questions if you're on the fence. Again, I try not... This project is like anti-FOMO, anti-hype. It is just, I want to give so much value to someone that they can't help but tell somebody else. And so this has grown through word of mouth. And we're growing kind of, it's really starting to snowball now, but sales are not the thing that drives me. People enjoying it and feeling the value is what makes me keep going.
Love it. And last question, and then we're going to go ahead and say goodbye. But Collector John, I'm curious. I think I know the answer, but why did you choose Polygon for Feeshes rather than IMX?
So I'm actually a hybrid chain. So the Feesh themselves are on Ethereum, the airdrops are on Polygon, and then the everything in the games space uses Immutable X, but that's just for wallet and Omi transactions. So I'm actually on using 3 different blockchains, but I do all the heavy lifting. So much so that if you go to your profile section of the Feesh Arena, you can actually see your layer 1 Omi, your layer 2 Omi, your spot account Omi. I actually made a system for you because MetaMask and other things don't allow, like it can't read the Omi layer 2 stuff. Like there's just, you can't see your balance, you can't see. So I do all that for you. And also the ability to transfer layer 2 Omi. So you could transfer from Veve into your MetaMask wallet, go to the Feesh Arena, the profile section, see all of your balances. So it's more clear as to what's what. And then you can transfer right back into your Veve wallet from the Feesh Arena without having to do, you'll just confirm when MetaMask pops up. But yeah, IMX isn't really there yet where it's easy. So I did all the heavy lifting for everybody and built tools to make it easy. But why did I choose Polygon versus Immutable X? Immutable X wasn't ready to rock when I was, and I didn't want to wait because I'm impulsive. And so I knew that Ethereum for the Feesh gave everybody the most interoperability because I can do tons of stuff with Feesh, but somebody else could say, well, I want to do something with Feesh, and they can use my contract and say, oh, I can read your wallet and see you've got 4 Feesh. Here's something else. Like somebody could actually build a separate game using the Feesh or a separate application using Feesh because it's on Ethereum. With Polygon, I'm airdropping them, and so I needed something with like as low of gas as possible because I'm paying for it. You pay for 1 Feesh, and whereas other projects, not bashing, will say like, oh, come mint your airdrop. My airdrops are like have utility. instead of just sending you an image. Like they all work either within the tank or within the inventory management system, or if they don't work within the tank, I usually do a double airdrop and stuff like that. So Polygon let me very, very cheaply send out all those airdrops. I'm sending out like almost 3,000 airdrops a month now. And so doing that on any other chain would have probably been a bigger pain, financial burden. IMX is technically gasless, but I think IMX is still flourishing, and I've been going for 6+ months, and I wasn't going to wait. So that's why that choice was there.
Yeah,
but it's just airdrops, and also you don't have to switch chains or do any of that confusing stuff. I wired it all up to where you just, as long as your wallet's connected to the Feesh website, you're good to go. I take care of all the heavy lifting. If you
guys hear that? He did that. Like that's part of it too, is like you're well versed in actual technology. Like you understand NFTs, like you make NFTs. You're in the space that we're supporting of, our bread and butter, Omi and Veve, right? Like you get it. You're doing your own thing, and you understand what it takes to build something. And like that in itself is kind of cool. The fact that you already built this hybrid build-in system, to that way it's like not hard for the users, but it's all backend that's kind of routing it, and it's easy to use, but also saving you and us kind of like the best experience.
Yeah, that's my hope. And just I through this whole project, I've have wild and crazy idea. Normally people are like, but that would be hard, because I'm just like, nope. If it's hard, I don't care. That I will do it anyway. It's more about just like going without limits. So for me, it's a huge creative outlet. But I let everybody else jump into the journey as well.
I do agree with him. That's part of, like, I'm not in the Feesh Court very much, but the fact that you respond a lot and often in there, and like you can ask him questions on more than just Feesh, and like he's very receptive. So having like a front end access to Brock is definitely great.
If you like that sort of thing.
If you like that, yeah. Man, I know we've been talking for 2 hours, so I really appreciate your insight. I think it's beneficial again that we discuss some of this, because like some of these questions were a little more pointed than some of my other questions, right? Mm-hmm. I really wanted to address some of the the fear that's out there, and then the fact that we are in a bear market, that right now many people who joined maybe in November, December, their collectibles are way down, right? If they jumped into Omi back in like September, their investment is way down. So I thought it was good to really talk to someone who's been around for a long period of time, who's been there in the beginning and is here now in the trenches with us, but still believes heavily in the project, so much so that you've put majority of your net worth into this project, and you've put your time into building your own project that uses part of that project. So I think it's beneficial for everyone here to at least kind of gain some of your insight and to have us kind of speak about this. So, and shout out to the real Randy Chavez. Thank you guys for all you do, best community members. Thank you for that super chat, Randy. Another fantastic channel to get insight from, and well versed and all in also into Omi and Veve. But if everyone here, if you have not checked out Brock's Twitter or aren't his friend yet, or follow him, I highly recommend. He always posts funny ass things, and he's also like posting things of value too. And check out the Feesh project. You got my head going. I think I'm gonna probably buy a few Feesh and do a little giveaway on Twitter. So
whatever you want to do. Yeah. Now it goes to a good cause. It is it's more entertainment and enjoyment. Think of it as like paying for a Netflix subscription for the year or whatever, where you're just going to get constant entertainment value, I hope. And it's still an NFT, and you can still make it your profile picture if you really want to. But I'm trying to push the boundary and reestablish what an NFT can be. So yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Always happy to jump on. It doesn't always have to be targeted with Feesh or anything else, really. Whatever you think provides value, I'm happy to do. Thanks everybody who tuned in. And yeah, Feesh or no Feesh, I will just leave you guys with, unless you've got finishing thoughts of just Veve was forged in a bear market. I think they're at a point now where they've got even more kind of resources. They have run businesses successfully, whereas a lot of Web3 projects are not business owners, and they're trying to figure it out as they go along. It is additional friction, and seeing their funds that were in crypto shrink, and then now how am I going to get out of this? It can be a different world than someone that knows and has. Again, maybe obviously everybody wants Moon yesterday, but they're doing it differently, And I think maybe that's a common thread with me, is I try and also do it differently and make things better. But they've survived a bear market before. They've been very, very responsible with their spending and stuff, whereas everyone's like, go faster, higher. They've done things I think the right way, the safe way for the long term. And so although their timeline might be different than maybe what you had hoped, they're ready to thrive, and as they've been continuing in a bear market, if I had to say anything about that. So I understand it can be scary, but like, if you believed in Omi when the price was high, if you believed in VeVe when the collectibles were high, just know that was like the first, that was like the little kind of flash of where things are probably going. And so hold on. And if you need some entertainment in the meantime, Feeshes is fun, but you don't have to. Like, just find something that's good for you and distract you from it. Or if you have to cut bait, that's okay too. But just like, realize that a lot of people, when it goes bear, jump in a little bit deeper, and then they're ready for the next one. And so if you jumped in a little bit early from that, or you have no additional capital to put into something that you believe in, VeVe, Omi, or otherwise, just, you can ride it out as long as you truly believe in the projects. Not financial advice, but just, VeVe's been here before through the bear market, and they're focused on creating the experience. They're focused on making the app, making the token connected to the app. All the same goals that they've been talking about are still the goals, and it doesn't matter, bear market, bull market, they're going to keep going and forging ahead. And so for me, they're a leader in the space that's pushing to do things differently. And I think those are the ones that I typically bet on, and it's paid off for me. So
there you go. Words of wisdom from the bread cat from space, and what an outro that is. So again, thanks from the bottom of my heart, Brock, for being on the channel. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Hit that like button, and we will see you on the next one. Everyone have a great day. And thanks again, Brock.
see ya.
Bye.